Chapter 934. I didn't expect you to kill the killer's soul, Heavenly General. Looks like you were quite powerful. Although I don't know how you came in, I will end your life in my hands. The killer moon, Heavenly General, stared at Yun with his bloodshot eyes. He pulled the bow in his hand, and 3 blood arrows appeared in his hand. These blood arrows were condensed from blood essence and were very powerful. Kill me? Yun smiled and said, So, you don't want to take over my body? Your body is perfect. Not bad. I might as well kill a body that I can't possess. The killer moon, Heavenly General's eyes were cold. Although his physical body could not be seen, the red glow on his body was enough to prove his murderous intent. If he couldn't possess a body, he could only choose to kill. It was better than letting him go. If Yun escaped, once the matter was exposed, who would dare to come in again? If no one came in, he couldn't possess a body. Getting them to kill a large number of cultivators and absorb the malevolent aura was to change their physique to match the requirements of their possession. Everything was a conspiracy. As for the auxiliary cultivation, there was definitely an effect, and it was not bad. However, those who rushed forward with the effect would die. Is that so? What do you think are your chances of winning against me compared to your companions? Yun squinted at him. Killer Moon, Heavenly General, Lord of Heaven, Level 1. Good at using bow and arrow to attack. It is powerful and can kill enemies from thousands of miles away. Has violent power and can concentrate all the power at one point to achieve the power to penetrate everything. Overall combat power, 250,000 star power. Its weakness was the extreme Yang fire, and it was Lord of Heaven Level 1. Their cultivation was not high, and it was easy to deal with them. Of course, this was mainly because of his spiritual body. If he had a physical body, he might be more powerful. Swish, swish, swish. However, Yun didn't respond to Yun's words, but instead, 3 blood arrows flew toward him. The 3 blood arrows quickly released a dense, murderous aura, at the same time weaving into a huge red energy net, trying to capture him. As if they had eyes of their own, the 3 blood arrows spread out in different directions at the same time to make the net even larger. Such an open attack did not seem to be the style of his opponent. Yun smiled indifferently. He brandished his heavenly god spear and thrust it backwards. Dang! A hard blood arrow flew out from his back. Poochie! It pierced into the ground. Sure enough, you sinister villains like to sneak up on people. It looks like he's attacking from the front, but he's actually trying to launch a sneak attack from behind. Yun's spiritual sense had already covered this area. Even if there was evil chi, the appraisal I could still reveal all the details. All is fair in war. Didn't your master teach you that? A look of surprise flashed across the killing moon divine general's eyes. He did not expect Yun to be able to withstand his sneak attack. He was surrounded by a baleful aura. Even in this state, he was still able to send the blood arrow flying. He was very surprised. He knew that it was difficult to detect the surrounding evil chi, so he chose to sneak attack, but he did not expect that he was still discovered. It's just that Yun didn't look panicked at all. Actually, I like this sentence very much. As soon as his voice fell, Yun disappeared with a smile on his face. The killing moon divine general felt a chill in his heart. He didn't know what happened, but Yun disappeared in front of him. The next moment, he immediately felt a terrible power coming from behind him. However, it was too late. The celestial god spear had already pierced through his head and nailed his soul to the ground. Before he could even scream, the violent power had shattered his soul. Ding! Successfully killed killing moon divine general. Reward 2 trillion EXP, 15 million crazy points, 1 million SBS, obtained killing god secret art, killing god grand array. Reward, god killing bow, low grade reincarnation level, god killing bracelet, low grade reincarnation level, god killing soul rare. Ding! Reward, 50 billion EXP, 2 million crazy points, 2 million proficiency points. Reward, 1 chance of God Realm Lottery Roulette. The reward didn't change much. The experience was still good, but it still couldn't let him level up. The experience required to break through from second refinement to third refinement was too amazing. It basically doubled, reaching 200 trillion EXP. That's 200 trillion EXP. 32,000 EXP is only a small part of it. Of course, this is all within the scope of understanding. The higher the level, the more difficult it is to level up. Even if it's a kill, it still takes a long time. Generally speaking, it's very fast. It doesn't take decades for others to break through from first refinement to second refinement, or even hundreds of years. Because of the significant increase in lifespan, time is not a problem. The key is that it may not necessarily be able to break through, which is the real key. There is still a small part to level up. Etienne turned his head to look at the sky and said indifferently, "Are there any other divine generals? If there are, come down quickly. Otherwise, after I leave, I will expose this matter, and no one will come in." Right now, he was blatantly threatening them, trying to force them out of their hiding places. However, after he shouted, no one answered him at all. It seems that there are really only 10 divine generals. Now that the last 2 are dead, how can there be more? It seems that there are no more. Then I can destroy the great formation here with peace of mind. Etienne glanced at the place. If he wants to destroy the great formation here, he must first find the array core. He immediately activated the Heavenly Eye talent. He has to say that this talent is quite useful. Even in the face of the creator-level great formation, he can use the Heavenly Eye to find the array core. Even now, he can detect the energy lines on it. This makes him very strange. What kind of existence is the Heavenly Spirit Clan? How can they have such power? He didn't see many Heavenly Spirit Clan here, basically none, but he found them in the 3 realms. Especially since this talent is very effective, this can't help but make him feel a little puzzled. I have to find a vital crystal quickly and go back. There is no such thing in the 3 realms. Etienne shook his head. Previously, he promised the Heavenly Spirit Clan to help them find the vital crystal. However, after so many years, there is no sign of it at all. It is obvious that the vital crystal probably doesn't exist in the 3 realms. Fortunately, the vital crystal from before is still there, and it can barely last for a few years. Otherwise, it will be difficult to extend my life. Chapter 935. The God-killing array was huge, so he had to search for a long time before he finally found the array eye. Although they had found it, destroying it was another level of difficulty. This is worthy of being a God realm array. It's too strong, but I can only destroy it bit by bit. Etienne took out the celestial divine spear and aimed it at the array eye. A violent force constantly attacked the array eye. However, the array eye was like a boulder, making it difficult for him to destroy it. But no matter how strong the array eye was, it would be destroyed one day, especially when it was a weak point. Naturally, the effect would not be too bad. It was just that with his current strength, it would take a long time to destroy it. The difficulty of destroying it is not small. It seems that I need to increase my rank as a divine inscriber. Etienne thought for a moment and chose to increase his rank as a divine inscriber. He was only a grade 1 divine inscriber. The divine inscriptions here were grade 3, which meant that the difficulty was very high. He could destroy it, but it would take a long time. Ding! Successfully deducted 10 million proficiency points. Promoted to grade 2 divine inscriber. The next level requires 100 million proficiency points. After deducting 10 million proficiency points, he was successfully promoted to grade 2 divine inscriber. Suddenly, the speed of destruction increased. Using a divine inscriber's ability to break through was much faster than using brute force. After all, using force to destroy the array was more reckless, so the gap was naturally not small. If the array could be destroyed casually, then the God-killing array would have been destroyed long ago. Therefore, after increasing the rank of a divine inscriber, the effect was greatly improved. Compared to before, the speed of destruction was 10 times faster. However, it still needed some time. This was a divine inscription that a grade 3 divine inscriber could inscribe. In the God realm, the divine inscriptions were now collectively known as divine inscriptions. This sounded the same as the name in the God realm, but the words were different. As he worked hard to destroy it, the people outside felt the energy fluctuations disappear and felt a little strange. They were more and more sure that the energy fluctuations were released by the god-killing array and not that there was really someone fighting inside. If there was someone fighting inside, it would not disappear so quickly. What they didn't know was that they had all been killed by Etianyan in one move. It must have been very short, so how could they sense it? As the days passed, many cultivators began to meditate and cultivate nearby. Even if he couldn't enter, cultivating here was still a good choice. The Lord of Heaven glanced at Nian Xiu from time to time. He felt that his chances of winning were getting bigger and bigger because of the terrifying energy fluctuations. Etianyan must have been dead by now, right? Nian Xiu's heart sank. She felt that Etianyan wouldn't be able to take it anymore. If he really died inside, Nian Xiu's heart sank. She would blame herself. After all, she was the one who brought Etianyan here. Yet this kind of thing happened. He was the future main force of the heavenly mandate divine realm, but he died here. How could she not feel sad and blame herself? However, it had not been half a year. She was still not sure if Etianyan was dead, so she had to wait here. Time passed quickly. A week passed quickly. Just when everyone was feeling very bored, suddenly, there was a bang. A sound came from inside, attracting everyone's attention. Immediately, the evil chi of the god-killing array began to disappear quickly. The evil chi seemed to have lost its restraints and floated around. Some were absorbed into the bodies of cultivators, while some floated out of the god-killing tower. Everyone was shocked. This was something that had never happened before. Why did the evil chi suddenly disappear? Soon, after the evil chi disappeared, a familiar figure appeared in front of everyone. Along with it, a voice came. I finally broke it. It was too difficult. The person who spoke was, of course, Etianyan. He spent a week to break the Matrix Eye. If it was an attack on the Matrix, he really wouldn't be able to take it for so long. Even if there was a difference of 1 grade between the two, it took a week to break it. One could imagine how difficult it was. Ding! Successfully broke the 3rd grade God's Mandate rune. Obtained 5 billion experience points, 1 million proficiency points. The reward for breaking the God's Mandate rune was not small. However, it took too long. If he relied on it to level up, it would not be worth it at all. This, when they saw Etianyan standing inside the god-killing array, they were all shocked. They thought that there would be no bones left. But now, he was perfectly fine. Chi deviation, he's definitely chi deviation. At this time, the Lord of Heaven who placed the bet shouted. He did not think that he had lost. If Etianyan had gone mad, then he would still have won. Chi deviation? Who's chi deviation? Etianyan turned his head and looked at him. Then he looked around. There was no one around. How could there be someone who went mad? When the words came out, everyone was dumbfounded. If he could still speak, it meant that he did not go mad. You are okay? The Lord of Heaven was shocked. What could happen to me? Etianyan walked over and directly came down from the god-killing array. He did not know what was going on. Very good. We won. Hand over the bet. Nian Xiu smiled. She smiled very happily. She was happy not because she had obtained the treasure, but because Etianyan was still alive. This made her tremble with fear. Who knew that nothing would happen to him? She had worried for nothing. The Lord of Heaven's face was gloomy. He could only take out a middle-grade reincarnation rank treasure and throw it over. He wore the mask, but he had made an oath before. He could not go back on his word. Therefore, he could only obediently hand over the treasure. After Nian Xiu received the treasure, she immediately passed it to Etianyan and said, "Take it. This is your spoil of war." My spoil of war? Etianyan reacted quickly. He already had a rough idea of what was going on. Actually, they had made a bet here. Moreover, they had made a bet with him in the lead. He did not stand on ceremony and immediately kept the treasure into his inventory. He was not a fool to not want a treasure when he had it. There is not a bit of chi on it. This array was destroyed? At this time, some cultivators walked into the god-killing array and realized that there was not a bit of chi. They even saw that the array was destroyed. This made them extremely shocked. How could the array be destroyed? I destroyed it. What's the problem? Yun did not deny anything. He turned his head to look at them and said indifferently. Chapter 936. Yun had destroyed the god-killing formation. Such shocking news made them look at each other in disbelief. You actually destroyed the formation. How are we supposed to cultivate now? Just then, one of the cultivators came back to his senses and started scolding Yun. After they realized what was going on, they started to curse at Yun at the same time. Right? If you can't take it, then come out. Why did you destroy the formation? How are we supposed to cultivate now? What a scam. Don't you want to cultivate anymore? Do you like to destroy the god-killing formation for fun? All of them shouted. They felt that it was Yun's fault that they couldn't cultivate anymore. Didn't this mean that they had wasted their time coming here? Now, Yun became the target of everyone's criticism. They felt that he had done something wrong and caused this place to be destroyed just like that. All along, they could enter and cultivate here. Now that the formation was destroyed, they couldn't go in anymore. Seems like you guys are really stupid. This god-killing tower was built to allow them to take over your bodies. Did you really think it was left for you to cultivate? After speaking, he threw out a crystal and crushed it. The situation of the god, slaying general, and the others appeared before them. Not only did it include their situation, but it also included their conversation. When they saw it, they were shocked. They didn't expect this to happen. Then they looked at the 8 names above their heads. Their hearts turned cold. Your life and death have nothing to do with me. They offended me, so I destroyed this place. Yun wasn't a good person. Since these people offended him, he definitely had to get rid of them. He could even get some experience points. Why not? Now that he revealed the truth, he wanted them to help him destroy the god-killing tower. No one could forcefully move the god-killing tower away, but that didn't mean it couldn't be destroyed. With so many lords of heaven here, if they destroyed it together, they could still destroy it. If he destroyed it alone, it would take too much time. Moreover, they would stop him. It would definitely be troublesome. Only then did everyone realize that they had misunderstood Yun's actions. It turned out that they were like sheep walking into a tiger's den, obediently sending themselves to their deaths. I didn't expect that I would let you be more high profile. Now it's all good. The god-killing pagoda is about to be overturned by you. Yu was equally shocked, especially when she saw the names on the list. When she thought about the content of the message that Yun had given her, a chill ran down her spine. If she was possessed, would she be able to struggle free? However, Yun had managed to break free, and it seemed like he had killed them. Yun did not record the whole process. He only recorded their conversation so that they could know the process. As for the details, no one knew. It's all right. I don't want to be so high profile. Yun shrugged his shoulders and looked at them. Now, can you guys help me destroy this god-slaying pagoda? Their eyes were filled with anger. This anger was as if they had been ruthlessly toyed with. Destroy! We must destroy it ruthlessly. I didn't expect that you actually wanted to possess someone else's body so that you can be reborn. All of them were angered. Immediately, someone stood out to say that they wanted to destroy this god-slaying pagoda. Right? I support you too. Let's start destroying the god-slaying pagoda now and blow this place up. They did as they said and immediately started on how to destroy this god-slaying pagoda. However, just as they were preparing to destroy it, the entire god-slaying pagoda trembled. Dense, baleful aura surged up from the bottom and rapidly enveloped this region. I didn't expect that there would still be people who could destroy the god-slaying formation. This is truly a huge mistake on our part. The key is that we still came out alive. Killing Soul God General and the rest, they are really unreliable. At this moment, the god-slaying pagoda suddenly closed. The door that was originally open to the public suddenly closed and let out a loud bang. Everyone looked towards the direction of the sound and realized that there were actually 5 Lord of Heaven standing at the door. They were all hugging their shoulders as they looked over. Their eyes were filled with mockery and disdain. They were like high and mighty emperors looking down at trash like them. I didn't expect that out of the 8 who succeeded in possession, only 5 returned here. I wonder what happened to the other three? Yun looked at the five of them. Each of their cultivation was very shocking. The strongest was a Lord of Heaven level 5, while the weakest was a Lord of Heaven level 2. After possessing someone else's body, they still needed to fuse with the body for a period of time. Their cultivation couldn't be too high. In an instant, everyone's gaze fell on them. Their hearts instantly sank. Their appearance here undoubtedly meant that they wanted to silence them. You don't need to know this. This is the first time in history that someone could kill our god general. Seems like you can't be left alive. The killing dragon god general looked at him coldly. The baleful aura in the surroundings was mobilized and enveloped the five of them. Boss, don't be angry. Today, these guys will all stay here. We originally planned to encircle and annihilate them after number 9 and number 10 came out. I didn't expect the plan to be brought forward. The other killing dragon god general smiled. His companion had died, but he didn't look sad at all. Instead, he seemed to be talking about a stranger. Everyone's hearts sank. It seemed like they had been prepared for a long time. It was only because of Yun's killing that they had moved ahead of time. Although they didn't know where the other three were, there were 5 Lord of Heaven in front of them. It had to be said that the pressure was quite great. Do you think you can deal with us with just 5 people? One of the Lord of Heaven stepped forward and looked at them coldly. There were more than 10 Lord of Heaven present, and that didn't include the other celestial lords. Of course, celestial lords were useless in this battle. Even earthly lords were useless. This was a battle of the Lord of Heaven level. Those below the Lord of Heaven level were basically useless. They were all burdens. Now, 5 of them against more than 10 Lord of Heaven. It had to be said that there was a huge disparity in numbers, but they weren't afraid at all. Oh, just you trash? The leading killing dragon god general said disdainfully. Who knows how many Lord of Heaven have died in our hands? Especially since this is our territory. From the beginning, you were destined to become fertilizer here. Fertilizer? Yun repeated this word in his heart. Could it be that those corpses were sucked into the ground? They didn't disappear, but were buried underground? Take a closer look at the baleful aura. How was it formed? Usually, it was formed from the accumulation of countless corpses and resentment. Only then could such a large amount of baleful aura be accumulated. Such a dense, baleful aura was beneficial to anyone. It was definitely beneficial to the killing gods. This way, it was equivalent to a great supplement that could help them cultivate. Chapter 937. The baleful aura in the god-killing pagoda became denser and surged in all directions, almost enveloping the entire place. This was like a huge god-killing formation, trapping everyone inside. If the density got higher, it would disturb the Lord of Heaven, distract them, and even cause chi deviation. As for those star monarchs, they were naturally panicking. If they continued to stay here, they would definitely suffer chi deviation. By then, not to mention their companions, even their masters would be killed. But now, they couldn't escape and were trapped here. Unless they destroyed the door, they wouldn't be able to escape. All the Lord of Heaven members looked at each other and didn't know how to work together. Although they had the advantage in numbers, they didn't have any tacit understanding and were even on guard against each other. Not to mention having twice the number of people. Even if they had 3 times the number of people, if they didn't work together, it would be much more difficult. Swish! When the baleful aura enveloped everything, they all disappeared and merged into the baleful aura. They were waiting for this moment. As long as there was baleful aura, this would be their world. Be careful, stand by my side. Yu hurriedly grabbed Yun and pulled him to her side. A high-grade reincarnation grade whip appeared in her hand. She used a whip-type weapon, and her might was instantly raised to the maximum. She released her power to the maximum and locked down the space around her. Her expression became nervous. Her cultivation wasn't high, only at the 2nd level of Lord of Heaven. It wasn't high because compared to so many experts, it could only be considered below average. However, according to her age, her cultivation was already very shocking. She was already at the 2nd stage of the Heaven Monarch realm at such a young age and was much stronger than many elders. Otherwise, why would those elders be so respectful to her? Not only was her talent shocking, but her abilities were also shocking. Tianyan stood beside her and looked around. He smiled and said, "There is no need to be so nervous. They are just some minor characters who are just giving away experience." Of course, he was calm. Others couldn't leave, but that didn't mean he couldn't. He could easily teleport out, and this god-killing pagoda couldn't stop him. As long as he could still feel the teleportation, he would definitely be able to escape. If he felt that he couldn't teleport out, then he definitely couldn't teleport out. He had this feeling before, which was when he was in the teleportation channel or in the heavenly mandate divine planet. In this situation, he should be able to easily escape after leveling up his teleportation. These were divine skills, but it didn't mean that they were invincible. Only by increasing his level would he be able to pass through this barrier. Of course, it's easier to earn crazy points now than before. When the time is right, or when he needs it, he will definitely not hesitate to level up. Usually, he will upgrade everything he sees, but when he needs it, he doesn't have enough crazy points to upgrade, which is the most embarrassing. What nonsense are you talking about? You're still acting high and mighty in front of me now? Yu glared at him angrily. She stretched out her hand and knocked his head. The situation is urgent now. There is no way to clearly investigate the surroundings. The other party is also so powerful. There is no way to deal with them easily. I originally came here to train you, but I didn't expect to encounter such a situation. It's terrible. She felt a little bitter in her heart. Crushing the communication jade pendant was completely useless. There is no way to pass through this god-killing tower. How can I ask for help from outside? If there is no such thing, these divine generals will naturally not be so confident. Tianyun touched his forehead. She knocked his head again. It seems that she took his words as a joke. His current strength is not very strong, at least not weak. It is not a problem to deal with 2 or 3 layers of Lord of Heaven. No one would believe that he can kill a strong cultivator that many levels higher than him. Aw! There was a scream not far away. Everyone's heart tightened. They couldn't help but look at the source of the sound, but they couldn't see anything. Not to mention seeing, they can't explore very far with their spiritual sense. This evil chi is too powerful. It can block everything. Damn it, I can't see anything. If a sneak attack comes, it will be troublesome. Yu thought for a moment and dragged Tianyun and fled to the side. Very quickly, they escaped to the side of the wall. Although they still can't escape, at least one side won't attack them. This will undoubtedly make them slightly safer, and they will have less to guard against. If they were in the central region, then they will be attacked from the back, and it will be easy for a sneak attack to succeed. This, Tianyun actually wanted to say that he can roughly guess their direction. If it wasn't to protect Yu, he would have charged up and beaten them up. As for the lives and deaths of the others, it has nothing to do with him. Now, the most important thing is to protect Yu and kill the god generals that are preparing to sneak attack them. There is a dangerous aura. Yu's gaze turned cold. It is as though she has a natural sense of danger. She really felt that there are people approaching them. Tianyun was very impressed with her actions. He didn't expect her sense of danger to be so good. She can even feel people approaching from all directions. In reality, there are god generals rapidly approaching them. Their cultivations aren't high. They are only at the 3rd layer of Lord of Heaven. Their arrangement was mainly for those with higher cultivation to deal with stronger heaven monarchs, while those with lower cultivation would deal with those with lower cultivation. Yu and Tianyun are obviously his targets. The one who came over is God General Tianshun. His eyes are flashing with red light. In his hand is a high-grade reincarnation grade dagger. He could take their lives at any time. You think you were safe just by hiding in a corner? God General Tianshun sneered and locked his gaze on Tianyun. Why did he kill Old 9 and Old 10? Does he have some special treasure on him? He doesn't think that Tianyun is strong enough to kill his companions. Although they are nearby, they can't see the situation inside clearly. They can control the formation, but if they aren't inside, they can't see the situation inside clearly. Because of this, they feel that Tianyun has some special treasure on him that can suppress the existence of souls. This is not the first time they have encountered such a situation. God General Tian, Chun sneered. His figure flashed and completely merged into the murderous aura. In the next moment, his figure appeared above Nian Xiaoyu's head. He ruthlessly stabbed downwards and directly greeted Nian Xiaoyu's head. He chose to kill in one move. Nian Xiaoyu immediately felt a sense of danger coming from above. She fiercely swung her whip and lashed upwards. Instantly, it turned into a giant dragon and accurately swept towards God General Tianchun. Such accurate judgment is much better than other Lord of Heavens. God General Tian Chen's expression instantly changed. He didn't think that he would really be discovered. He quickly turned his body and dodged to the side. Swish! When his body leaned to the side, a cold light flashed and the spear shot out like a dragon. Like lightning, it pierced through his body and lifted him into the air. Where are you going to hide? Yi Tianyun held the heavenly god spear and looked mockingly at God General Tianchun. God General Tianchun was so focused on Yin Xiaoyu that he didn't notice him. How stupid. Chapter 938. Divine General Sha Chun was lifted into the air by Yi Tianyun. He didn't die immediately, but he couldn't break free. Yin Xiaoyu was stunned. She didn't expect Yi Tianyun's attack to be so domineering. She didn't expect Yi Tianyun's attack to be so overbearing. Yu, Divine General Sha Chun twisted his body, but the heavenly divine spear was firmly fixed on him. He couldn't break free from the heavenly divine spear. It seems that I'm really insignificant. Even I don't need to guard against you. No matter how weak I am, I'm still an enemy. Yi Tianyun looked at him playfully. He immediately shook the heavenly divine spear in his hand, and a violent force burst out from inside the heavenly divine spear. Bang! The divine General Sha Chin turned into a mist of blood. His eyes were filled with unwillingness, but they were also filled with fear. Ding! Successfully killed Divine General Sha Chun. Reward: 5 trillion EXP, 15 million crazy point, 1 million SBS, obtained God-killing secret art and God-killing array. Obtained God-killing dagger, low-grade reincarnation level. God-killing necklace, low-grade reincarnation level. God-killing soul rare. Ding! Reward: 50 billion EXP, 2 million crazy points, 5 million proficiency points, 1 ticket to God Realm Lottery Roulette. Since the difference in cultivation level was quite large, he could still get the reward for killing above his level, but the reward for killing above his level was relatively ordinary. The most important thing was still to get a chance to draw the lottery. That was the key. Whoosh! Evil Qi quickly rushed into Yi Tianyun's body, but he quickly stored it and continued to absorb it little by little. This evil Qi can be stored. After all, it's not an attack. On the contrary, it can be used for cultivation. That's why he can store it. He can't store the evil Qi that he absorbed with the Heaven Devourer Divine Art. It's directly entered the experience system, so it's naturally impossible to store it in the inventory. Besides, it's meaningless, so it's better to just absorb it directly. Can I continue to strengthen it? Yi Tianyun felt that the blood-red bead in his body could continue to strengthen, especially under the influence of the baleful Qi. It was the same for the 2 divine generals he had killed earlier. Only their powerful, baleful auras could replenish him. What happened? Divine General Tianchun is dead. The other god generals looked over at God General Tianchun. The battle had only just begun, yet their comrade had already died. This is their territory. As long as they use their full strength, they can absolutely crush them, especially since they didn't know their existence. But now, he had died just like that and died so quickly. Everyone was stunned, and their eyes quickly gathered on Yi Tianyun. They all saw that Yi Tianyun was the one who killed him, and everything was so incredible. They thought that Yi Tianyun died because he used a treasure, but now it seems that Yi Tianyun died with his own strength. Tianyun is said. Tianyun died in. Yi is as Tianyun died. Tian, they couldn't believe it, but the truth was right in front of them. They had to believe it. Even Yin Xiaoyu, who was standing next to Yi Tianyun, was stunned. Yi Tianyun's attack was so fast that she couldn't even see it clearly. She didn't think that Yi Tianyun's sneak attack was successful. Even if it was a sneak attack, it had to be based on a certain amount of strength. The Lord of Heaven is very sensitive to the surroundings. Even if there's a sneak attack behind you, you can sense it immediately. If you can't sense it, the only reason is that the attack was too fast and fierce. You can't even react before you are killed. At this time, she remembered Etienne's words, which was to tell her not to worry. Your cultivation has reached the Lord of Heaven. Although she didn't dare to believe it, she still asked such a silly question. You feel that I have broken through to the Lord of Heaven? Etienne shook off the blood on the heavenly god's spear and smiled at her. No. Nienci, you felt that Etienne's cultivation didn't reach the Lord of Heaven, but the earth monarch level. After sensing it carefully, she covered her mouth and said in shock, You broke through to the earth monarch levels? She was shocked again. She brought Etienne here with the intention of helping Etienne break through to the earth monarch level. But how did he break through in such a short time? The key was that explosive power. Why didn't it seem to be at the earth monarch level? Let's talk about this later. There are two people who have their eyes on us. Etienne looked up and saw two divine generals abandoning the others and quickly outflanking him. Their target was Etienne. These two god generals didn't have high cultivation. They were at level 3 of the Lord of Heaven and level 4 of the Lord of Heaven respectively. They weren't the strongest god generals. But to them, this was already very shocking. The original plan was to devour them bit by bit. But now, they had no choice but to send some people to attack Etienne. Get rid of him first. He killed 3 of our brothers. We can't tolerate this. That's right. If the Lord finds out, we will definitely be punished severely. Facing the suppression of the two, Etienne's heart sank. He had no choice but to be cautious, because the other party was enraged and they had completely exploded. The murderous aura in the surroundings surged into their bodies like crazy, following which their bodies swelled up and became 3 times bigger. They turned into giants. Their bodies turned red, and the murderous aura seemed to materialize. It surrounded their bodies and formed an extremely hard crystal armor. God-slaying technique. After using the God-slaying technique, they would enter the God-slaying state, and their combat power would increase at a terrifying rate. 2 million star power, 3 million star power, 5 million points of star power, 3,760,000 star power. Finally, it stopped at 3,760,000 star power. The other one had a higher cultivation level and reached 4,770,000 star power. It was just a difference of 1 level, and he had an additional 610,000 star power. Their combat power increased exponentially as if it was free. Compared to the 2 souls that they had dealt with previously, it was much stronger. They didn't expect it to explode under the circumstances of having a physical body. It was as if they were on drugs and it surged crazily. No wonder the initial combat power was just a reference. The actual combat power would definitely be blinding. In the face of this terrifying pressure, the surrounding cultivators could feel it. Even Yin Ci was deeply shocked. Her body started to tremble slightly. Chapter 939. The 2 godly generals charged over. Both of them used their strongest power, aiming to kill in 1 strike. They were careless before. Now that one of their companions died, they knew what they had to do. They had to use their strongest power to completely suppress Etienne and Nian Xiu. Especially Etienne, he had already become their target. As for his physical body, it had nothing to do with them. They had taken over other people's bodies and basically wouldn't change their bodies. It wasn't easy for them to adapt to this body, so it was impossible for them to change it, unless it was really heaven-defying. Etienne's body was not bad, but they felt a sense of danger. You attack from that side, I'll attack from the other side. We'll outflank him and kill him. The 2 of them communicated telepathically and came up with a plan. They wanted to suppress Etienne with absolute power. Isn't this making a mountain out of a molehill? The other one was confused. I saw that kid's attack just now. Its power is not bad. It's at least at the 1st or 2nd level of the Lord of Heaven's power. However, it's still lacking compared to us. Don't be so long-winded. Didn't you hear the boss shouting at us? The Divine Dragon Slayer General was their boss. He was the leader of the 10 godly generals and naturally led them in battle. When the Divine Dragon Slayer General saw Etienne's situation, he didn't hesitate to send 2 intermediate godly generals to attack and let them use their strongest power to kill Etienne. The Divine Dragon Slayer General, who was paying attention to this side, only took a quick glance before continuing to fight with the other Lord of Heaven. The other Lord of Heaven's cultivation was above the 6th or 7th level. Thus, they had to be careful in suppressing this side. Otherwise, he would personally kill his way over and suppress Etienne. Although they had an advantage in terms of terrain, many situations were uncontrollable. Even he couldn't stay here for too long. If they continuously used their fiendish energy, they might go berserk. It could even be said that they were more likely to go berserk than others. This wasn't a joke or a contradiction. Cultivating this kind of demonic technique was a dangerous path. If they weren't careful, they might go berserk. Especially when one's power was unleashed to the extreme, it was even easier for one to go berserk. He didn't want to continue unleashing his power. He had to unleash even more power to quickly end the battle. Facing the 2 Death God Divine Generals, Nian Xiaoyu felt more and more intense. She didn't even need to specially sense it to be able to feel 2 terrifying forces charging over from the front. If he wanted to use his full strength, he would definitely expose his location. Of course, it was not necessary for them to do so. In the face of absolute power, any preparation would be futile. Prepare to fight. Nian Xiaoyu was not afraid at all. She gripped the long whip tightly in her hand, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. Even though she was facing 2 powerful cultivators, she was not afraid at all. At the same time, she took out a pill, ready to consume it and fight. This pill was no ordinary pill. It was similar to a berserk pill that could temporarily increase one's strength. No matter what the result was, she would at least give it a try. There's no need for that. Leave this place to me. Etienne stretched out his hand and pressed down her little hand, indicating that she should not consume this pill and leave everything to him. No, I am a dignified elder. Let a junior like you. Nian Xiaoyu turned her head. She felt that this was not in line with the rules. Let a junior protect her. How could it be? The one who is strong is the teacher. If anything happens to you, the Heavenly Mandate Region Lord will be very sad. The Heavenly Mandate Region will be managed by you in the future. Etienne smiled slightly and stood in front of Nian Xiaoyu. Nian Xiaoyu was stunned. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a complicated look. She still clenched her teeth and said, I can't let you face them alone. I will also face the enemy with you. She was still so stubborn. She didn't think that Etienne could win against them alone. He definitely needed some support. Okay, you can help me from the side. Etienne didn't say much to her. He had already begun to communicate with the system in his heart. Exchange for the Evil Demon God set. Successfully deducted 50 million sin points to exchange for the Evil Demon God set. Evil Demon God set. Requires level 80. After wearing it, the wearer can transform into the Evil Demon God at any time. All strength increased by 200 times, defense increased by 200 times, speed increased by 50 times. When entering the Evil Demon God mode, all attacks become long-range attacks, can attack anything within 1,000 miles, and has a burning effect. Critical hit rate increased by 50%. Consumes 100,000 crazy points per minute. He now has enough sin points to exchange for the Evil Demon God set. He doesn't need to wear the Evil Spirit set, but the more powerful Evil Demon God set. Equip the Evil Demon God set. The next moment, he equipped the Evil Demon God set. His whole body was immediately covered with a thin layer of armor. There are dense demon god lines on the armor, like water ripples, layer after layer superimposed on the armor. An incomparably evil aura exuded from the surface of his body, eroding the ground. In an instant, Nian Xiaoyu felt that Etienne has become a different person. She felt that his strength has increased by many times. Her feeling is not wrong. Even if he doesn't transform, his strength and defense are increased by 200 times. He definitely has the power to kill gods. Evil demon god transformation. Etienne's eyes shot out a black light, and immediately, a black light enveloped his body, and a dark force soared into the sky, penetrating the baleful aura that surrounded them in one fell swoop. The evil chi is very strong, but in the face of Etienne's evil chi, it immediately retreated a few dozen feet. This allowed his field of vision to increase by more than 100 feet in an instant. It was extremely terrifying. The evil aura he released actually had a burning effect. It could burn everything to ashes, including this evil aura. He was still burned to ashes and disappeared without a trace. Then what appeared in front of Nian Xiaoyu is a completely different Etienne. His body didn't change much, but his hair became a lot longer and slightly fluttered in the air. Whether it is his arms or body, they didn't become bigger. It was just that when looking at him from the side, his handsome face, his demonic eyes, and that devilish smile made him look like a devil god that was laughing at the world. The only thing that changed the most is on his forehead. There are two thin, long horns slightly curved to the side. It is scary. The two killing god divine generals who rushed to this side suddenly froze. A feeling of death surged in their heart. For a moment, they didn't dare to approach half a step. They just stopped in the middle of the evil chi. They don't dare to step half a step towards the territory occupied by the evil chi. Chapter 940. This is the power of the evil devil god set? It feels pretty good. Etienne was very satisfied with this set of equipment. The improvements in all aspects were considerable. At the same time, the evil spirit set was kept away. Nian Xiu looked at Etienne with her mouth wide open. When she felt this surging aura, her heart trembled. This power might not be the strongest, but it was much stronger than before. It made it hard for her to breathe. It was as though the surrounding air was being burned away by this evil aura. It was fine even if she didn't breathe. It was just that the feeling that was transmitted over made her feel stifled. What power is this? Or is it the power of the human race? Nian Xiu widened her eyes and felt that everything was unbelievable. Where was the Earth Monarch cultivation? He was telling her that it was the Earth Monarch cultivation? Whoever believed it would die the fastest. The two god generals who were hiding in the baleful aura trembled. The other cultivators couldn't help but look over. They seemed to feel a terrifying power coming from afar. They didn't know who it was and whether it was friend or foe. What's going on? That kid is so strong? God Killer Dragon's heart trembled. He quickly transmitted a message. Don't act rashly. We will go over to support you and suppress him together. The feeling of fighting for many years made him feel a dangerous aura. He had to be cautious, so he had to choose 4 people to suppress Etienne. A kid that was judged to be harmless. The danger was limited to the soul state. Who would be afraid of him in their physical state? It was a pity that he made a wrong estimation and immediately killed his companions. Now he couldn't let his decision fail again. It would only make him look incompetent. World-burning evil flames. Etienne stretched his hand forward and clenched lightly. The area in front of him that was filled with baleful aura suddenly had a boom. Extreme black flames rushed into the sky and smashed into the towering ceiling, charring a large area. Ah! The two of them screamed under the black flames. The two of them tried to escape, but it was meaningless. The extreme black flames were constantly devouring their bodies. Upon closer inspection, there were actually 2 kinds of terrifying flames, one yin and one yang. This was the first time he used them after obtaining the 2 reincarnation-level flames. He mixed them together and used them to their fullest potential. His combat power had soared to 68 million points of star power after the stacking. Actually, he didn't surpass the other party by much, but it was already very good to be able to catch up. The 2 of them were inexplicably burned. The burning pain on their bodies made them panic. The next moment, a figure rushed to their side. A cold light flickered and pierced through the head of one of them. The spear was like a dragon. Bang! Just like piercing through a watermelon, his head was blasted apart by a single shot. What followed was a huge explosion of experience that surged into the system. Ding! Successfully killed Divine General Luo. Reward: 5. 500 billion EXP, 18 million CPS, 1 million SPs. Obtained God-slaying technique, God-slaying formation. Obtained God-slaying sword, low-grade reincarnation level. God-slaying bracelet, low-grade reincarnation level. God-slaying soul, rare. Ding! Reward: 50 billion EXP, 2 million CPS, 5 million proficiency points, 1 God Realm Lottery, roulette ticket. Not long after the experience was obtained, Etienne's figure flashed again. It was no different from teleportation. This was a 50 times increase in speed. On top of the original foundation, it was a 50 times increase in speed. How could it be slow? Whoosh! Etienne caught up with the Divine General in a blink of an eye. The heavenly Divine Spear pierced through the Divine General Luo. When the Divine General Luo saw Etienne's attack, it was already too late. Bang! His head was pierced by the spear again. The last thing he could see was a flash of cold light. It was as if the Grim Reaper was holding a scythe that flashed with cold light and harvested their lives. Successfully killed Divine General Luo. Reward: 500 billion EXP, 19 million CPS, 1 million SPs. Obtained God-slaying secret art and God-slaying array. Obtained God-slaying staff, low-grade reincarnation level. God-slaying ring, low-grade reincarnation level. God-slaying soul, rare. Ding! Reward: 50 billion EXP, 2 million CPS, 5 million proficiency points, 1 God Realm Lottery roulette ticket. In a short period of time, the 2 divine generals were slaughtered just like that. They were as dead as they could be. Immediately, he quickly returned to Nian Xiu's side with the heavenly divine spear in his hand. Nothing changed. There was no damage on his body. The advantage of the increase in combat power was that he could crush them in all aspects. Although it wasn't overbearing enough to crush them with fire alone, at least it could make them panic. If it was in the past, they wouldn't have panicked at all since they could only burn the skin. It's done, Etienne said softly. Nian Xiu's body shook as she looked at Etienne's back in shock. How long has it been? 2 Lord of Heaven died, just like that? The divine dragon generals who rushed over were all shocked. It had only been a short while, and their comrade had died. They didn't do anything, but they were killed just like that. He can see us? The divine general slaughter dragon was shocked. Their biggest advantage is that they can hide in the evil chi, so the other party can't see them. But just now, they saw Etienne killing their people easily. There is no doubt that Etienne can see them. The remaining 2 people's faces sank. Both of them are the strongest divine generals. Among them, the divine general slaughter dragon is the strongest leader, and the other one is a Lord of Heaven 4th layer. Previously, they killed several Lord of Heaven and many star monarchs. Now many star monarchs have begun to fall into cultivation deviation and become puppets controlled by this place. It can be said to be an overwhelming victory, but when it came to Etienne, it didn't work at all. Boss, what do we do now? I feel that he is very strong. It will be difficult to deal with him. The divine General Slaughter Dragon's eyes were cold and filled with rage. But reason told him that he definitely can't be rash. His 2 companions were easily killed. If they rushed over now, wouldn't they be easily killed? Indeed, my judgment was wrong. I didn't expect that 5 of us 10 brothers would die in his hands. The divine general of Deathly Dragon held his sword so tightly that the webbing between his thumb and forefinger was bleeding, but he didn't notice it. Chapter 941. Etienne glanced at the God-Killer Dragon General. He wasn't in a hurry to rush over and fight with them. He just waited for them to come over. After all, he had to protect Nian Xiu, who knew what would happen later. So for safety's sake, it was better to stay nearby. You can see the situation at the side? Nian Xiu asked. Yes, but I can't see the entire area. Etienne wasn't lying. If they were too far away, he really couldn't see clearly. Nian Xiu heaved a sigh of relief. She didn't know how Etienne did it. Her senses were very strong. At most, she could sense that there were people at the side, but she couldn't pinpoint the exact location. This kind of sensing ability was already very strong. Some people couldn't even sense it and were killed. If Nian Xiu's cultivation was a little stronger, she would be able to deal with them easily. The baleful energy wouldn't affect her too much. On. Suddenly, 3 balls of light exploded not far away and dispersed the baleful energy. Tianyan looked up and saw 3 giant phantoms in the distance. They were totem phantoms of different races. One was a giant eagle, one was a giant roc, and one was a giant python. After the 3 types of totem phantoms exploded, they suppressed the baleful energy. They didn't continue hiding their strength. Now that things had come to this, they had no choice but to explode. If they continued to hide, they would only die. After the baleful energy was suppressed, the 2 god generals that were hiding had nowhere to hide. They were completely exposed in front of everyone. After all, with the protection of such god totems, they could easily suppress the baleful energy. I didn't expect them to be so tough. I thought they would be beaten up. Tianyan didn't believe that they were all idiots. They just didn't want to expose their identities. As expected, after they exploded, their might was revealed, and they easily suppressed the baleful energy. It was possible that the 3 of them chose to work together. Even if they couldn't coordinate with each other, they would at least be able to show their strength. If this continued, their disciples would be corroded by the baleful energy. When that happened, their losses would be even greater. I didn't think that it would be the 3 great races from the realm of the gods. It looks like we don't even need to do anything to suppress them. Nian Xiu's eyes lit up. The strength of the 3 races that exploded out was not bad. They were all at the 6th or 7th level of the Lord of Heaven. They were even stronger than the Divine Dragon General and the others. Even if it wasn't enough, it wouldn't be a problem to force them to retreat. This isn't the ending I want to see. Tianyan narrowed his eyes as he looked over. These 2 were fat sheep. How could he miss out on so much EXP? Furthermore, they had many treasures on them. Previously, they had killed several divine generals and obtained many reincarnation-grade weapons. Killing people and robbing them was still the most beneficial. He easily obtained several superior-grade reincarnation weapons. Even if he did not use them, it was still a good choice to use them as a weapon. The faces of the divine dragon general and the others sank. Now that there were only 2 of them left, with the addition of the other party's explosive power, it was undoubtedly going to be much more difficult to deal with. Seems like I can only use that move. Even if it is a little wasteful, at least I have to make them stay here. The divine dragon general's eyes turned cold. He stretched out his hand and slammed it on the ground. Bang! The blood-colored patterns on the ground spread out rapidly. Instantly, the entire god-slaying pagoda trembled. Vaguely, everyone could feel a bad premonition. One by one, they charged toward the other party. Kill the 2 of them. Don't let them continue. All of them executed their strongest techniques and suppressed the other party. The Divine Wind General, who was protecting the Divine Dragon General, picked up his huge sword and charged forward. His entire body was covered in red crystals. His strength exploded to the limit as he clashed head-on with the other party. Dang, dang, dang. Their attacks continuously landed on the Divine Wind General's body. However, they only left shallow marks on his body. Their tyrannical defense was evident. However, they were still in a state of being beaten up. The main purpose of killing the Divine Wind General was to defend against their attacks and not to kill them. Although the difference in cultivation was not small, it was truly shocking for them to be able to fight against them when they were at their peak. This was the power of the god-slaying pagoda. In addition, they were being disturbed by the baleful aura. It more or less invaded their battle strength. The Divine Dragon General focused on controlling the god-slaying pagoda. He wanted to release the strongest power of the god-slaying pagoda. Just when he thought he could continue, a cold light flickered over. Without thinking, a thin sword shot out from his palm. Clang! The Divine Dragon General was sent flying. At the same time, the entire god-slaying pagoda stopped shaking. The baleful aura that was emitting out was rapidly decreasing. I don't know what you want to do, but it will definitely not be a good thing. Tianyun pointed his celestial god spear at him. His eyes flickered with cold light. Of course, he would not stand at the side and watch like an idiot. The Divine Dragon General was definitely plotting something by doing this. He had to stop this quickly. Otherwise, if something happened, even he would not be able to control it. His current strength was not the strongest. He was still slightly weaker than the Divine Dragon General. Hence, if he wanted to control everything, he had to avoid some accidents. The Divine Dragon General looked at him coldly. He stomped on the ground. Following that, the ground started to shake. Corpses climbed up from the ground. Their eyes were empty and filled with only baleful aura. They twisted their bodies and kept getting up from the ground. More and more corpses appeared. Without a doubt, they were the cultivators who died above. They thought they were completely dead. Unexpectedly, they came back to life. Unless their bodies were destroyed, they would be moved to the bottom if they were simply hacked to death. Now, they seemed to have come back to life. They twisted their bodies and charged over. Instantly, dozens of puppets charged at Onion. Their cultivation was not high. However, the weakest was a 5th or 6th refinement Star Venerate. The strongest was a 2nd or 3rd refinement Earth Monarch. Have fun. Don't disturb me. The Divine Dragon General smiled coldly. His figure quickly disappeared in the baleful aura. He was prepared to continue with his task. Onion looked at the puppets charging over and smiled. This was undoubtedly free experience. He was just about to say that he was lacking experience to level up. Now a big gift was coming. Swish! A whip lashed over. The cultivator that charged over exploded into a blood mist. He was deader than dead. What? Onion looked to the side and discovered Nien Tsiu standing at the side. She was constantly brandishing her whip at the cultivators that charged over. Let me help you. Eliminate all these puppets, Nien Tsiu said in a deep voice. Chapter 942. Elder Nien, you don't have to do that for the time being. Just leave it to me. No, I can't let you do it alone. I can deal with these puppets. Nien Tsiu ignored him and continued to whip the puppets. With one whip, the puppets would explode. Onion felt helpless. He quickly waved his hand, and the puppet that rushed towards him immediately burned. And in the blink of an eye, it was burned to ashes. It can't be any more dead. Compared to Nien Tsiu's whip, Etionyun's wide-range attack is more overbearing. He can't waste so much EXP. Ding. Successfully killed puppet, 6th level Star Monarch. Reward, 64 billion EXP, 5,000,000 crazy points 1. 800,000 SPs. Ding. Successfully killed puppet, 1st level Earth Monarch. Reward, 1,000,000 SPs. The EXP kept popping up. Even if it was a puppet, the reward was still quite a lot. Under his crazy attack, a large number of puppets were immediately burned to ashes. Nien Tsiu, who was at the side, was speechless. It was settled so quickly. What kind of evil martial art was this? Watching from the side, it looked as if his body had spontaneously combusted. With his swoosh, he was ignited. He didn't know what was going on. This is the horror of evil chi. As long as you are within the range of evil chi, you will be instantly ignited. You wouldn't be able to detect it at all. If you wanted to ignite it, it would be ignited. Divine Dragon General, who was hiding in the dark and continued to control the formation, noticed the situation here, and his face became even uglier. He knew that these puppets naturally can't stop Etianyun, but they can't even stop him for a while. Isn't this too scary? Damn it, it's all a pile of garbage. Hurry up and activate the formation, or else it will all be in vain. Divine Dragon General hid on the side and continued to control the formation. The Killing God Pagoda began to tremble violently, as if it was preparing to activate something. When he just reactivated the formation, he looked up a little and found that Etianyun was gone. Where is he? Divine Dragon General was shocked, and immediately a sense of crisis came from behind, forcing him to jump up and continue to wave the sword in his hand. Dang! The two collided, and the rapier was almost bent to the chest of the Divine Dragon General by the pressure of the celestial divine spear. The spear almost pierced through him. Whether it is strength or reflexes, Divine Dragon General is a lot stronger than others. So Tianyin repeatedly failed to kill him in one move. What about this? Tianyin felt that he couldn't suppress it any longer. Xiong, Divine Dragon General, was suddenly ignited, and the double flame immediately enveloped him. Intense pain came from the surface, and in the blink of an eye, it eroded his body. The fire can't burn him to death, but it will affect his combat power. It can't burn him to death, but it can affect his combat power. The Divine Dragon General let out a furious roar, and his eyes flashed with red light. A huge shadow of the god of slaughter emerged from his back. It was not his true self, but the shadow of their leader, an incomparably huge killing god aura pressed down from the sky, causing people to be unable to breathe. I am killing God. The figure behind the Divine Dragon General actually spoke. It raised its fist and smashed towards Tianyin. The baleful aura in the surroundings all rolled over and merged into the figure. In an instant, the figure became solid, and its strength increased by a lot. It was as if the killing god had possessed him. At the same time, the Divine Dragon General's face turned red, and blood burst out from all the veins in his body. It was obvious that this kind of power was beyond his body's endurance. Tianyin immediately noticed that baleful aura was pouring in from the feet of the Divine Dragon General. It was obvious that when the formation was opened, the effect was shown. So their real purpose was to open the Killing God formation and then release the power of the Killing God. However, they only released a little bit of it. The Divine Dragon General had no choice but to use it, or else he would be suppressed by Tianyin. When the huge fist smashed down, countless vengeful spirits wailed and howled. It was unknown how many vengeful spirits there were in the Killing God Pagoda. Tianyin felt the terrifying pressure and was really unable to resist. Because after the addition of the Killing God's power, the Divine Dragon General's battle power actually soared to 5 million star power, which was a lot stronger than him. This was only a small part of the power that was opened, and it was able to reach such a terrifying power. It must be said that the formation was really too powerful. When all of it was gathered together, the power that erupted out was extremely shocking. Quickly run! Nian Xiu hurriedly shouted, indicating for Tianyin to quickly escape from the locked range. It's useless. Everything has been locked down. Even if the formation's effect was not fully activated, it is more than enough to deal with you guys. The Divine Dragon General's eyes were bloodshot, and his eyeballs could not be seen at all. It looked like he was really possessed by the Killing God. Yeah, it's useless. Tianyin looked at the incoming fist and revealed an evil smile. Boom! The huge fist smashed down heavily on the area where Tianyin was standing. A red light soared into the sky, and a terrifying energy wave swept out in all directions. Some of the Star Lords who were further away were directly sent flying. After rolling a few rounds, they vomited blood and were seriously injured. As for those Lord of Heaven, they were sent flying for a distance. Under this explosion, the Divine Dragon General could finally take a breather. Tianyin. Nian Xiu looked over there with her red eyes, and her heart was in her throat. Her gaze quickly swept back and forth, hoping to see Tianyin's figure. Even if he only had one breath left, she had to save him. When they all thought that Tianyin was dead, a figure appeared behind the Divine Dragon General. An extreme piercing force pierced through the back of the Divine Dragon General like it was piercing through a piece of tofu. Following that, he was lifted up, and the Killing God's power that was attached to his body quickly disappeared. The Killing God that was condensed in the air shattered into countless red light spots and drifted in all directions. You! How did you appear behind me? The Divine Dragon General looked behind him in disbelief. He could not see what was happening behind him, but he knew that the one who sneak attacked him was that Tianyin. The power of your move is not bad, but the weakness is really obvious. You can't move. Tianyin clicked his tongue and laughed. As for how I appeared behind you, you don't need to know, idiot. Come to think of it, a long time ago, I also met someone called the Divine Dragon General. They really have the same name and both call themselves that. Of course, you think more than him, but you are a bit more stupid. Chapter 943. When the Death Dragon Divine General opened his mouth to say something, he suddenly felt a domineering force released from his chest and tore his body into pieces. The last thing he saw was the ceiling of the god-killing tower, and then everything was completely over, and he didn't know what happened. Ding! Successfully killed Dragon Divine General. Reward: 264 trillion EXP, 19 million crazy point, 1 million SPs. Obtained God-Killing Art, God-Killing Array. Obtained God-Killing Sword, low-grade reincarnation level. God-Killing Ring, low-grade reincarnation level. God-Killing Soul Rare. Ding! Reward: 50 billion EXP, 2 million crazy points, 5 million proficiency points, 1 ticket to God Realm Lottery Roulette. Ding! Congratulations to player Etianyan. Successfully broke through to 3rd Refining Earth Monarch. Finally, he successfully leveled up to 264 trillion EXP. It's hard not to break through. The main reason is that he bought a 200 times EXP card before. He didn't buy any other cards. He only bought a 200 times EXP card. Faced with so many puppets, after killing a small portion of them, he finally chose to buy a 200 times experience card. Buying it means that he must kill all of them, especially these 2 big-headed Lord of Heaven experts. If he doesn't kill them, the card will have no meaning. Comfortable. Etianyan felt very comfortable. This kind of explosive experience is what he wanted. If it was the previous experience, it would be too slow. Under the effect of 264 times the experience, it exploded in an instant. Boss! The Death Dragon Divine General was shocked. He didn't expect his boss to be killed, especially when Etianyan is still unscathed. He wanted to vomit blood. He felt like everything was an illusion. He died in the blink of an eye. Not to mention him, Nian Ciu and the others also had the same reaction. The terrible power is beyond their imagination. Obviously, that punch hit the back of the Death Dragon Divine General. How can it still appear behind him? This really puzzled them. No matter what, the result was what they wanted to see. It's your turn. Etianyan didn't waste any time as he looked at the Wind Immortal General with an evil and handsome look. This was the effect of the evil demon god equipment set. It made people look extremely demonic and evil. The killing Wind God General's legs trembled, and he hurriedly formed hand seals. All right, the doors of the Killing God Pagoda will open and let me escape. He could mobilize the Killing God's power here, but even their boss had been killed, so there was no point in mobilizing it. Etianyan walked over unhurriedly, waiting for the Divine Wind General to open this door. The other Lord of Heaven also knew what Etianyan was thinking, so they did not rush forward to stop the Wind Divine General. If they were trapped here, it would be difficult for them to open it. Rumble. After a moment, the door was opened. The Divine Wind General first took out a jade pendant, and after ruthlessly crushing it, he looked at Etianyan malevolently and roared, "You are dead. The people who barged in this time will kill you one by one in the future." Is that so? I'm looking forward to it. Unknowingly, Etianyan already appeared behind the Divine Wind General. His heavenly divine spear had already pierced through, easily piercing through him and lifting him in the air. This scene is exactly the same as before, and now it reappeared again, causing people's hair to stand on end. Each and every one of them were like mutton skewers. All of them were lifted up by Etianyan. One must know that these are Lord of Heaven. Such an overbearing Lord of Heaven is like slaughtering dogs, causing their hearts to involuntarily tremble. If it was them, wouldn't they be dead for sure? Our Lord will take revenge for us. There is no fear in the Divine Wind General's eyes, only madness. After fighting on the battlefield for so many years, of course, he is not afraid of death. The main reason he opened the door is to send a message. In a situation where the door is closed, even if it is they can't send a message to the outside. So opening the door is not to escape, but to send a message to his remaining companions. I said, "You are very welcome to come and take revenge." Etianyan indifferently smiled, not the slightest bit concerned. For others, it is very scary, but for him, there is not a bit of worry here. In any case, there is no one who needs his protection. The barefoot is not afraid of the shoes. Let them come and take revenge. It is the same as giving him experience. As soon as he finished speaking, his hand trembled, and the divine wind general completely turned into a blood mist, dead as can be. Even if he wants to take over a body to be reborn, it is impossible. Here, it is impossible to take over a body to be reborn. Only in the killing God great formation can such a condition be established. It is very obvious that this killing God pagoda was built by the killing God, giving them the best conditions to succeed in taking over a body. It can even be said that this can make their soul stay longer. In normal times, before they can find a body to take over, they will disappear. Soul is not allowed to exist in the world, so it will quickly disappear unless there is a container or a good environment. Otherwise, there is no way to stay. Ding! Successfully killed Dragon Divine General. Reward: 2. 37 trillion EXP. 18 million crazy point, 1 million SPs, obtained Killing God Secret Art, Killing God Great Formation. Obtained Killing God Huge Sword, low-grade reincarnation level. Killing God Necklace, low-grade reincarnation level. Killing God Soul, rare. Ding! Reward: 50 billion EXP, 2 million crazy points, 5 million proficiency points, 1 ticket to God Realm Lottery Roulette. Except for the weapons, everything else is obtained repeatedly. Originally, they're the same group of people. Of course, the things that dropped are of course repeated. This is not surprising. Tianyun is only interested in the EXP and crazy point. The number of EXP that dropped is too much, which makes him very satisfied. He knew a long time ago that the higher the level, the higher the reward value for killing. Of course, the divine skill needs crazy point to level up. Just the EXP alone is enough for him to drink. Now that he has more than 200 trillion EXP, it seems really good, but compared to the 200 trillion EXP he needs now, he must kill a 4th layer Lord of Heaven. He swept his gaze forward. Many people trembled. Among them, the 3 Lord of Heaven hurriedly stood up. This one is the Lord of Heaven of Giant Rock God Realm. Thank you for your help. Giant Rock God Realm welcomes you. This one is the Lord of Heaven of Giant Eagle God Realm. Thank you for your help, friend. One by one, they stood up, scared them. They don't want to provoke Tianyun. They also want to say they're backing. Hope that Tianyun won't be hostile to them. Chapter 944. Tianyun glanced at them, then turned into a ray of light and rushed over, scaring those self-destructing Lord of Heaven into taking a few steps back. Bang, bang, bang. Following that, a few blood mists exploded in the air. Those were cultivators who had gone mad. Basically, there was no way to save them. Tianyun directly dealt with them to gain some experience. He could not waste the 200 times experience card. If he killed all these cultivators who had gone berserk, he could also obtain a very considerable amount of experience points. When they discovered that Tianyun was actually killing these cultivators who had gone mad, they instantly heaved a sigh of relief. They thought that Tianyun had gone mad and wanted to kill them as well. Luckily, he didn't kill us. Their backs were drenched in cold sweat. If he had really killed them, they probably wouldn't have been able to resist at all. Especially that elusive silhouette, they couldn't even see it, let alone resist it. Tianyun naturally wanted to kill them, but when he looked over appraisal, I actually showed him a lot of data. For example, how many sin points could he obtain from killing them? But if he wanted to kill some people, not only would he not obtain any sin points, he would also lose experience and character. They belonged to this category, which meant that he couldn't casually kill innocent people. As long as they didn't hate him, killing them would only lose experience. It was just that simple. This was something he had experienced before. Otherwise, if he could casually kill anyone, his experience would have exploded a long time ago. Now, can you guys destroy the God-killing pagoda? Tianyun looked at them and said indifferently, "Let's join forces and destroy the God-killing pagoda. Don't let them have the chance to rebuild it." They hurriedly nodded. Their eyes were filled with hatred. Even if Tianyun didn't say it, they also wanted to do it. How many disciples had they lost here? If it was a normal loss, then it wouldn't matter, but this was a loss caused by a conspiracy. Then it was another matter. Opportunity meant danger, and danger meant death. Everyone could understand this. But if this was a conspiracy, then it was another matter. Then they started to spread out in all directions. trying to destroy the god-slaying pagoda's formation. It was indeed difficult, but with so many people trying to destroy it, destroying it was not a problem. When Tianyin returned to Nian Xiyu's side, he saw that Nian Xiyu was staring at him in a daze. She was dumbfounded and couldn't say a word. "What's wrong? Don't you recognize me?" Tianyin stopped his transformation and immediately returned to his normal appearance. When he returned to his original appearance, his face was still wearing that mask, so no one could recognize him. They didn't expose themselves, so naturally, no one would know about their situation. No. Nian Xiyu sized him up and asked suspiciously, "Are you really an Earth Monarch? Then do you want to sense carefully to see if I have the cultivation of an Earth Monarch?" Tianyin stretched out his hand and gestured for her to check his body. The most accurate way was naturally to touch his body and feel the energy within it. This was the most accurate way to test it, much more accurate than sensing any aura. Nian Xiyu did not even think about it. She grabbed Tianyin's arm without standing on ceremony and started to check his body situation. After circling around Tianyin's body for a while, she received the feedback of a third refinement Earth Monarch cultivation, neither high nor low. Third refinement Earth Monarch. My God, weren't you just a peak star venerate earlier? Nian Xiyu discovered something even more shocking. Xiao Chun was clearly just a peak star venerate when he came here. How long had it been? And he became a third refinement Earth Monarch. If it were anyone else, they would be dumbfounded and shocked. This felt like flying. Well, that's a secret. Tianyin smiled faintly. Nian Xiyu rolled her eyes at him. This was nonsense. If he could go up, he had to be an Earth Monarch. This meant that after circling around, Tianyin broke through to the third refinement Earth Monarch. The crucial thing was that a third refinement Earth Monarch could defeat the Lord of Heaven? What kind of power was that? Even the Lord of Heaven was suppressed. If you participate in the deity domain battle to heaven with this faction, won't you be able to fly? Nian Xiyu's eyes slowly filled with pleasant surprise. A third refinement Earth Monarch could definitely participate in the deity domain battle to heaven. It was just that it would not be very eye-catching. However, to be able to defeat the Lord of Heaven with such a tyrannical cultivation meant that he would have a place in the deity domain battle to heaven. That's hard to say. However, this is a secret. Elder Nian, you have to help me keep it a secret. Tianyin smiled at her. Actually, it did not matter whether he kept it a secret or not. However, it was best to keep it a secret. That way, no one would know his true strength, and they would not be on guard against his existence. It was better to keep a low profile during the early stages of the deity domain battle to heaven. Nian Xiyu nodded heavily and revealed an "I understand" look. Then, she said sullenly, "I don't care how you became so strong. However, if it is harmful to your body, you still have to stop. You must not be in a rush for success. That is not good for you." It was not that there were no martial arts that could allow one's cultivation to break through quickly. However, it was very easy for problems to appear. For example, it was easy for one to go berserk or reach the limit easily. The faster one's cultivation broke through, the more unstable it was. The result would be that one would easily reach the limit. When the time comes, one would not be able to break through no matter what. There were simply too many of such things. A cultivator who looked like a genius would have a very fierce breakthrough at the beginning but would stagnate at the end. After asking around, they discovered that it was a type of martial arts that could be mastered quickly. Later on, when one reached the limit, one would not be able to break through. This was equivalent to digging one's own grave. One would be fierce at the beginning but would stagnate at the end. There was no future. It could be said that there were no shortcuts in cultivation. One had to be down to earth. Thinking that Xiyu was so concerned about him, Tianyin smiled. It seemed like she was not purely chasing after benefits. She still cared about others. I understand this. Tianyin did not explain much. He did not need to be like other cultivators and needed to stabilize his foundation. In any case, he could just focus on leveling up. Immediately, they turned their attention to the god-killing pagoda. Because there was no one controlling it, The infernal energy began to dissipate, and it soon returned to its normal appearance. This undoubtedly allowed them to destroy the god-killing pagoda faster. But the difficulty of doing so was not small at all. They did not understand much in this aspect, so they were just randomly messing around. Afterwards, it was Tianyin who pointed out the general direction of the array so that it would be a bit easier for them to destroy it. You are also a divine engraving master? Nian you saw Tianyin guide them in destroying the god-killing pagoda and was deeply shocked. That's right. Is there a problem? If one's mental force is a bit stronger, then cultivating to become a divine engraving master shouldn't be a problem, right? Moreover, Elder Nian, are you also a divine engraving master? Tianyin looked at her and smiled. That's right. Nian you had a complex look in her eyes. She was a divine engraving master, but she was only a first-grade divine engraving master. She simply could not see the flaws in this great array. Chapter 945. Under Tianyin's guidance, everyone was crazily destroying the formation eyes. Because most of them were not divine inscriber, it was more difficult to destroy them. It took a long time to destroy one. Those who had a bit of understanding, after knowing the formation eyes, would find it easier to destroy them. The last one, Tianyin's eyes flickered. The formation eye in front of him was the last one. There were many formation eyes in the god-killing pagoda, but most of them were destroyed. Only the last one was left. Everyone wiped their sweat. Destroying so many formation eyes in a row would consume a lot of energy. Even if they knew the formation eyes, it would take a long time to destroy them. However, they were all very proactive. No one dared not to be proactive. It was not only because they were angry at the god-killing pagoda, but also because they were afraid of Tianyin. It was better to listen to his orders. Rumble with a loud sound, the entire god-killing pagoda shook. Following that, the god-killing array under their feet started to collapse, and everyone was sent flying. What appeared in front of them was an incomparably huge pit. Following that, a dense resentment surged up from below, accompanied by a dense, baleful aura. It almost surged up from below, scaring many people into running away. When this baleful aura dissipated a little, everyone looked down into the pit, and their expressions changed. There were countless skeletons at the bottom of the pit, and there were also many fresh corpses. These fresh corpses were undoubtedly killed. After being swallowed by the god-killing array, they appeared below. So many corpses. Tianyin looked at the countless corpses in the pit. This did not surprise him. So much baleful aura surged up from the bottom. Without so many corpses, it was impossible for so much baleful aura to appear. If it was before, he would not have felt anything. After all, it was normal for people to die in this kind of arena. They would all be sucked into the pit to create baleful aura. Now that he knew it was to resurrect those god-killing divine generals, it was a different story. Deliberately attracting groups of people here was to create more baleful aura so that the divine generals could be resurrected. It had to be said that this was really a big move. Who knew how many people had died for this? Xiaochen looked at the corpses below. They were all star venerates and above. One had to know that in the Fanyu, a star venerate could be considered a super expert. Here, they were like cabbages piled up like cabbages. This was the difference in levels. Those who could be called gods in the mortal world could only be cannon fodder here. Burn! Tianyin's eyes turned cold, and he quickly threw out flames to burn the corpses. Very quickly, the place was engulfed in flames, and the corpses were burnt to ashes. When the others saw the scene below, they all felt their blood run cold. They all knew that a lot of people died in the god-slaying pagoda, but it seemed like the number of people who died was truly too much, at least over 10,000. Over the years, too many people had died here. If Azura finds out about this, I'll probably be in big trouble. Tianyin looked at the burning corpses, and the fact that the Killing God pagoda was gradually collapsing. Killing God had painstakingly built this place, yet it was destroyed by him, and so many of his god generals had been killed. Tianyin reckoned that Tianyin would be so angry that he would vomit blood. He will probably chase you to the end of the world. Nian smiled. The killing god pagoda has existed for so many years, and many people wanted to move it away, but no one thought of destroying it. Now, you actually destroyed the killing god pagoda the moment you arrived. But this is also good. It is the same as getting rid of a scourge. Who would have thought that everything was a scheme? When she said to the end, Nian Yu's expression turned cold. Luckily, she couldn't take it back then, otherwise she would have been like those people before, turned into Azura's tools. Chase me? I'm not afraid of that. Moreover, who would be able to recognize us now? Tianyun smiled. They were all wearing masks, hiding their identities, and no one knew of their existence. That's true, but if someone else exposed their identity, they might have been chased by Azura. Nian Yu looked at the Lord of Heaven at the side, and shook her head. The name of Azura causes people to tremble in fear. I wonder where he is now. I think that Azura isn't dead yet. Yes, he is definitely not dead. Tianyun's eyes flashed. If they were dead, it would be difficult for these god generals to resurrect. Although he didn't know how these god generals died, there must be some conspiracy behind it. But it has nothing to do with him. Anyway, destroying the killing god pagoda is the end, the rest doesn't matter. Successfully completed side quest, kill killing soul god general, destroy killing god pagoda, reward 100 billion EXP, 5 million crazy point, 5 million proficiency, 5 million SPs. At this time, the side quest was finally completed, and he got a considerable amount of EXP. But compared to the EXP he needed to level up now, it was not enough, not even a fraction. Receive Special Divine Realm Quest, Exterminate Azura. Reward, 100 trillion EXP, 100 million crazy points, 50 million proficiency points, 50 million SBS, and 3,000 prestige points. At the same time, you will get the special title Azura. Quest that affects the structure of the second grade Divine Realm can affect the direction of your own forces. Choose to proceed. The special Divine Realm quest that popped up made him stunned. He wanted to say that it has nothing to do with him, but now a new special quest popped up. Either choose to do it, or choose to ignore it. It's up to him. Forget it. If I meet him one day, then I will just kill him. Tianyun has made up his mind. Anyway, if it's on the way, then he will kill that guy. If it's not on the way, then there's no other way. He doesn't know where the killing god is, especially when he saw the reward. It is tempting. The other party must be a very strong existence. He definitely can't provoke this killing god now. Plus the situation of the later part of the mission, affecting the second grade Divine Realm. He is now only in the first grade Divine Realm, and the second grade Divine Realm is still far away, which undoubtedly proves that the strength of this killing god is absolutely amazing. Friend, thank you for your help. If there is no problem, we will leave now. At this time, someone came to say goodbye to him. In fact, they want to see how Tianyun's attitude is so as not to create hostility or something. They don't want Tianyun to sneak attack them from behind when they are ready to leave. Tianyun's elusive figure is too scary. If you want to leave, then leave. What does it have to do with me? Tianyun looked at them indifferently and said, I am not a homicidal maniac. I only kill those who harm me, are you? Of course, we are not. If you have time, you are welcome to visit our Divine Realm. Chapter 946. This person is so powerful. Is he going to participate in the battle of the Divine Realm? No way. Even the Lord of Heaven was killed. Are you sure his cultivation is below the Lord of Earth? That's not possible. But he went to the killing god Matrix. Did you forget that he is a divine carver? He can even find such a complicated matrix. It shouldn't be a problem for him to go in with a stronger cultivation, right? That makes sense. If such a monster can participate in the battle of the Divine Realm, we won't stand a chance. When they left, the teams were discussing. This time, they suffered heavy losses. It would be good if they could survive, let alone get any benefits. Compared to this, they were more interested in which Divine Realm Tianyun was from. But no matter how they looked, they couldn't tell which Divine Realm he was from. There was no obvious characteristic power. Instead, they saw a very evil power. They couldn't tell. They are running away as if they are hiding from the plague. It seems that you scared them. Nianxiu couldn't help but laugh when she saw them running away. I can't help it. They are timid. I'm not a killer. Etienne shrugged helplessly. Okay, we can go back now. From today onwards, the Killing God Tower will disappear completely. Nianxiu shook her head and said, for a first-grade divine realm, it is equivalent to losing an excellent place to cultivate. Of course, it is more to get rid of a scourge. These Killing God generals stay here to hunt and kill. I don't know what they are plotting. I'm not sure about that. We should leave quickly. They have sent a message. I guess someone will come to investigate soon. Etienne glanced around. Those people shouldn't come so soon. Yes, I have the same intention. We must not bring trouble to the heavenly mandate divine realm. At least not now. Nianxiu took out the spirit ship and quickly left with Etienne. Soon, the place was empty. No one dared to come close. A few days after everyone left, a hole was torn in the void, and a figure walked out. His entire body was enveloped in killing intent, and even his face could not be seen clearly. A berserk aura was released in all directions. If someone with a lower cultivation were to stand beside it, they would probably go berserk immediately. The god-slaying pagoda was destroyed, and the 7 god generals all died here. The man frowned, but there was no sadness in his eyes. After inspecting the area, he waved his hand, causing a beam of light to cover the area. Very soon, a scene appeared in front of him. It was the scene of the previous battle, and now it was presented before his eyes. No matter where the details were, they were all displayed before his eyes. Giant rock race, giant eagle race. His eyes flashed with red light. It was impossible to tell whether he was happy or angry. When he saw Etienne easily kill everyone, his eyes narrowed into thin lines as if he was carefully observing Etienne's situation. His strength is astonishing, his speed is fast enough, and his explosive power is astonishing. Just what divine realm is this? He guessed, strange, there are no special characteristics. Could it be the ancient heaven race? No, it doesn't look like the ancient heaven race. Just what kind of race is it, and what kind of power is it? He really couldn't find any clues. This scene was just to observe the situation. He couldn't feel the aura of the battle, so he couldn't tell. At this time, 2 spirit ships flew over from the side. Many people came out of the spirit ships, and what they saw was the collapse of the god-slaying pagoda. What's going on? The god-slaying pagoda collapsed. They were all dumbfounded. They had come from other divine realms to cultivate, but they didn't expect to see the god-slaying pagoda collapse. Don't go over. That guy's entire body is filled with killing intent. Could he be an expert who has gone berserk? One of the Lord of Heaven felt a sense of danger. He immediately brought his disciple back to the spirit ship, wanting to quickly leave this place. However, it was too late. The mysterious man had already arrived in front of them. He smiled at them and said, "Since you've seen me, then stay behind." Boom! A red light flashed, and in the blink of an eye, the 2 spirit ships were engulfed. The sturdy lower-grade Samsara-level spirit ship was forcefully smashed into pieces. The cultivators inside were all sucked dry, turning into piles of ashes that scattered in the air. What a bunch of trash. It wasn't easy for my lord to spend so much effort to save them, but now they're dead. He shook his head and said in a deep voice, "I don't know who that brat is, but I definitely have to find him. It's very likely that he will become my lord's next body." The red light in his eyes flickered, but he couldn't find any clues. He could only tear open space and leave this place. Etienne and Nianxiu, you were completely unaware of the situation here. Fortunately, they had left quickly. If they had stayed a few more days, they would have ended up like the cultivators who had just arrived, dying without a complete corpse. Etienne and Nianxiu quickly returned to the heavenly mandate divine realm. Nianxiu was very satisfied with this trip. She was full of confidence in Etienne. As long as he participated in the divine realm's ascension battle, he would definitely be able to fight his way into the top 10. There are still a few years before the divine realm's ascension battle. I don't know how you cultivate, but in the remaining time, you should consolidate your cultivation. If there's anything you need, just tell me. I will do my best to assist you. Nianxiu, you had already taken off her mask. Her beautiful face was full of excitement, and her eyes were full of hope for Tianyun. He was someone who could get a good result in the Divine Realm's Ascension battle. How could she not be excited? Assist me with all your strength? Tianyun thought for a while. It seemed that he didn't need any assistance. After thinking for a while, he smiled and said, "If only you could arrange some dangerous places for me, such as places with more demonic beasts." Nian looked at him as if she had seen a ghost. He was indeed someone who liked to kill. How could others not be afraid? You really rely on fighting to improve your cultivation? Nian looked him up and down, feeling a little speechless. Elder Nian, didn't I say it before? Tianyun felt even more helpless. All right, I have indeed seen people who continuously improve their cultivation through fighting. Their breakthrough speed is indeed not bad. Nian thought for a while before saying, "Those places are too dangerous. Even the Lord of Heaven can't casually go there. The safer places probably won't be of much help to you." She frowned and thought for a while before saying, "However, there is a place that is indeed more suitable for you to go. I have to tell the region lord about this." Sure. Tianyun agreed without thinking. He just wanted to find a good place to cultivate now. His cultivation was not bad now, but he definitely wouldn't be arrogant. The Divine Realm's Ascension battle was definitely not a simple battle. Countless experts of the Divine Realm would gather together. There might be some extremely heaven-defying existences. This was because Nian had said that with his current strength, he might be able to fight his way into the top 10. She didn't say first, but said that he might be able to fight his way into the top 10. Chapter 947. Tianyun didn't stay in the training room for long. Soon Nian came back, looking excited. He didn't need a guest to know that there was no problem. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so excited. "It has been approved. Prepare for a few days, and then I will take you to the core area of the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm." Nian said excitedly. "The core area of the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm?" Tianyun looked at her in confusion. "Yes, the core area. Only many outstanding warriors can go there. Now, we have made an exception and applied for it for you," Nian said. "Elder Nian, did you tell the region lord about me in the god-slaying towers?" Tianyun asked. "Yes. Otherwise it would be impossible to apply for it," Nian said in a deep voice. Tianyun nodded. This was not out of his expectation. If he didn't show any ability, the region lord wouldn't have arranged these places for him. Without a certain amount of contribution or ability, it was impossible to open some special places. After all, those places required a lot of resources. Without contribution or ability, they were definitely not allowed to go. If anyone went there, the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm couldn't afford it. But I didn't say that you could fight against the Lord of Heaven. I only said that your breakthrough speed is very fast. If you want to get a good result in the Battle of Heaven, you must quickly improve your cultivation. So, we made an exception and allowed it, Nian said. I thought Elder Nian had already said it. Tianyun smiled. He didn't think it was a big deal. Anyway, it wouldn't affect him. Some secret should be kept for the time being. I can give the region lord a surprise. Nian beautiful eyes twinkled, and she became a bit playful. This made Tianyun feel a bit funny. He didn't expect Nian to have such an idea. It seems that Elder Nian has high hopes for me? Tianyun shook his head. Yes. Nian looked at him with burning eyes and said in a heavy tone, I won't hide it from you. Don't be fooled by the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm's glamorous appearance. In fact, the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm is gradually declining, and the resources in all aspects can't keep up. Therefore, we need to obtain good results in the Divine Realm Ascension battle, at least in the top 10. It's not just our God domain, it's the same for the other God domains. Without an excellent inheritance, there was no way to strengthen the power of the God domain. There are God realm experts eyeing us covetously from the side. If we continue to be weak, we'll definitely be swallowed up. Her tone was serious, and she was not joking. Tianyun knew that she wasn't joking. Otherwise, he wouldn't have spent so much effort to nurture the core hall. These were all geniuses that would participate in the Divine Realm's Ascending Heavens War. Etienne could imagine what he would get if he won. Stronger martial arts, stronger weapons. In the vast divine territory, the strongest martial arts were only at the reincarnation level. What about martial arts above the reincarnation level? Of course, they didn't have a single one. They had to rely on the divine realms ascending heaven's war to obtain good results before they could strengthen themselves. If I participate in the divine realms ascending heaven's war in my current situation, I wonder what rank I can get. Etienne inquired. If there are no accidents, you should have a high chance of getting into the top 10. You thought for a moment and said, it's undeniable that you possess the strength to fight against the Lord of Heaven. However, this divine realms ascending heaven's war is very different from other assessments. At the same time, there are many heaven-defying experts in the divine territory among the participants. They have an advantage that we don't have. To put it bluntly, they have an innate advantage. In terms of strength, they are much stronger than us. In addition, they have an even more valiant race strength, which is enough to withstand everything. The other god domains might rely on external forces or have their own special trump cards. Their cultivation might be above the 6th or 7th refinement, or even above the 7th or 8th refinement. To them, crushing Fan Yu's Lord of Heaven is as easy as flipping their palms, especially the high-level Earth monarchs. You looked at Etienne and warned, when you start to break through to the 4th refinement Earth monarch, I will protect you. After all, this is the true dividing line. Etienne nodded. He already had some understanding of the Earth monarchs. From the 4th refinement Earth monarch onwards, one would have to accept the heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation happened once every 1,000 years. No one could avoid it, no matter which corner or region one hid in. Once the time was up, the heavenly tribulation would descend. At that time, one could break through if they succeeded. If they failed, they would die. If they couldn't wait, they could attract the heavenly tribulation in advance and continue to break through. Of course, there was a third option. That was to directly break through to the Lord of Heaven. In that case, there wouldn't be any time limit. From the 3rd refinement Earth monarch onwards, one could break through to the Lord of Heaven. But this kind of Lord of Heaven was undoubtedly the trashiest existence. Even the Lord of Heaven couldn't compare to many high-level Earth monarchs. If people knew that he broke through from the 3rd refinement Earth monarch onwards, he would only be mocked as a coward. After all, when breaking through from the 3rd refinement Earth monarch to the Lord of Heaven, one would also have to endure the heavenly tribulation. It was just that the difficulty of the heavenly tribulation was much lower. Out of 10, there would be around 5 that succeeded. The probability was still very high. As for breaking through to a higher level, not only would one have to endure the heavenly tribulation every 1,000 years, the difficulty was also extremely shocking. But once one broke through, the power that erupted after was astonishing, especially when the 7th or 8th refinement Earth monarch broke through to the Lord of Heaven. That was an extremely terrifying existence that could definitely crush other Lord of Heaven. It was just that the danger was too great. 1,000 years might seem like a long time, but some of them didn't consolidate their cultivation much before they had to forcefully face the heavenly tribulation. As a result, they were directly finished and had nothing left. Hence, the further one went, the more terrifying the success rate was. 9th refinement Earth monarch was really too rare. 6th or 7th refinement could still be seen. 8th refinement and above were extremely rare. 9th refinement could be said to be 1 in 10,000. And this was based on the premise that one was an 8th refinement Earth monarch. Out of 10,000 people, it was already not bad if one 9th refinement Earth monarch appeared. It was enough to show how high the difficulty was. Etienne's big gift bag reward could only be opened when one broke through to the 9th refinement Earth monarch. Otherwise, there was no way to open it at all. It was useless even if one broke through to the Lord of Heaven. Hence, when he found out about the situation in this aspect, he felt the pressure multiply. One had to endure the layers of heavenly tribulation. The further one went, the more monstrous it would be. The difficulty could be said to be monstrous. Breaking through to the 4th refinement Earth monarch level, Tianyun narrowed his eyes. The difficulty would definitely be great, but if it was the beginning, it should be relatively easy. If one couldn't even break through to the fourth refinement Earth Monarch level, then one would really have lived in vain. Chapter 948. After Nian Xiu gave her instructions, she went to prepare and let Tianyun rest here for a period of time. He had just returned from outside, so he had to rest for a while first. Most importantly, Nian Xiu also had to clear the situation on the other side, hence she let Tianyun rest for a few days. Tianyun didn't need to rest at all. Previously, he didn't have any intense battles, so resting or not resting didn't make much difference. Looks like I can only wait for a while. Tianyun stayed in the cultivation room, waiting for the results. He didn't know what the core cultivation ground was, but since Nian Xiu was so supportive of it, it shouldn't be bad. As long as it wasn't as bad as the Killing God Pagoda, it was fine. The Killing God Pagoda was really bad. If he wasn't stronger, he would have definitely died there. After being possessed, his body would be taken over, and he would be at the mercy of the other party, taking over his position. Just thinking about it made him feel disgusted. Luckily, he was fine. As he continued to wait, there was a knock on the door. Gu Yuron? He didn't expect that it would be Gu Yuron looking for him. Without thinking much, he got up and walked outside. After pushing the door open, Gu Yuron's familiar face appeared in front of him. When the two of them looked at each other, Gu Yuron didn't dare to look at him. I didn't expect you to come. What's the matter? Tianyun looked at her and smiled. Young Mastery, I saw that your friend seems to be in some trouble. Gu Yuron was a little embarrassed. The main reason was that her personality was originally cold. Now that she took the initiative to talk to Tianyun, she was more or less embarrassed. My friend? Tianyun thought for a moment and immediately thought of a person. That was the cultivator who just came to God Domain. Could it be that Lei Jingyu? Yes, that young Master Lei is fighting with someone on Manflower Star. He can't hold on much longer. If this continues, I'm afraid he will die there. Gu Yurong said. What? A duel? Tianyun furrowed his brows. He knew that Lei Jingyu was someone who kept a low profile. Someone must have provoked him for him to fight in the arena. Yes, I persisted in fighting in the arena for a few days and fought with many cultivators. I heard that he was going to fight with those cultivators who looked down on the human race. The other party fought one after another, and his injuries were quite serious. Gu Yurong said. As expected, Tianyun's gaze turned cold. It was no different from what he had expected. Lei Jingyu wouldn't look for trouble for no reason. Someone must have provoked him. Shortly after, he smiled at Gu Yurong and said, Thank you very much. I'll go out now. In the next moment, he immediately rushed forward, not staying here for even half a second. The situation must have been very urgent, because he saw that Gu Yurong was running to find him. When she came to him, her breath was a bit messy, which meant that she had rushed all the way here. Gu Yurong looked at his back as he left, and there was some worry in her eyes. Young Mastery, will he be okay? She thought about it and followed him. She had always received help from Tianyun, so naturally, she wouldn't just leave him be. Tianyun quickly went to Manflower Star through the teleportation matrix. Sky Emperor Star was a rather special planet in the heavenly mandate divine realm. It was often a place of entertainment for many cultivators who had completed their tasks, and there were all kinds of entertainment facilities on it. For example, brothels or various restaurants, which were basically places where people indulged in debauchery. However, there was a huge duel here. It was quite exciting to drink and watch the battles between the cultivators on the duel. However, there was a big problem up there, and that was that life and death were not allowed. Fists and legs had no eyes, and if one died, it would have nothing to do with the other party. Fortunately, one could surrender. If they surrendered, they definitely couldn't attack. Otherwise, they would be punished by the referee. When he arrived at Manflower Star, he immediately smelled a strong wine fragrance. There were restaurants all around, and each restaurant was more luxurious than the one before. It was very easy to spend money here. One just needed to use some star stones. Contribution points could be exchanged for star stones, so after completing their tasks, they could come here to rest. "Little brother, do you want to come over and have some fun here?" A beautiful woman at the side tossed out a silk handkerchief and gently shook it in his direction. The fragrance spread out, looking very tempting. There were many special services in the restaurants here. The beautiful women all had low cultivations, but there were also some with high cultivations, reaching the Star Lord level. There was nothing wrong with doing this kind of business. Where there was demand, there would be a market. Because of their cultivations, none of them were ugly, and they were all beautiful. However, Tianyin didn't even bother to look at them. He focused his gaze and looked ahead. He immediately saw a huge duel in the distance, which was divided into several sections. This meant that several duels could be held at the same time. One of the duels was very lively. Several people surrounded the duel, shouting, "Beat that brat to death! Beat that human to death! He doesn't know what's good for him. To think that he dares to provoke us. He is seeking death." These voices spread out in the surroundings, truly ear-splitting. On the other hand, there was basically no one supporting Lei Jingyu. Tianyin narrowed his eyes and stomped on the ground. Boom! Then, he vanished from where he stood. The woman at the side waved her silk handkerchief in boredom. She said resentfully, "These stinky men. They get so excited when they see people fighting, but they are not interested in us at all." They all returned in boredom. Little did they know that Tianyin was not interested in these pink skulls at all. In the blink of an eye, Xiaochen arrived at the edge of the duel and saw the familiar figure of Lei Jingyu fighting with a cultivator. The two were locked in a stalemate. It was clear that Lei Jingyu was being suppressed. The main reason was that he was injured, while his opponent was not injured. Even if their cultivation levels were similar, Lei Jingyu would definitely be defeated due to his lack of stamina. At this moment, Xiao Chan realized that there were many human cultivators who supported him. However, their voices were much weaker than the other parties. It was as if they had no confidence. All of them were cowering. Even if they won, they would look like thieving thieves. On the other hand, even if the other races lost, they were full of vigor, as if they had won. "What's going on?" Tianyin came to the human side and asked his fellow cultivator beside him. When that person saw that Tianyin was one of them, he said helplessly, "What could be going on? That brat up there is defending a fellow cultivator called Tianyin, so he started fighting with others." Defending a fellow cultivator? Tianyin was stunned. He did not expect that they were fighting because of him. He really did not expect this. Yes, someone said that Tianyin entered through the back door, or that he is not a human cultivator, but actually from another race. In short, he did not recognize Brother Yi's achievements, or he did not think that he was a human. He thought that it was impossible for a human to achieve such achievements. The cultivator said helplessly. Then he retorted that Brother Yi is a human, and that he did not enter through the back door, nor did he use any tricks. Then they started fighting. That brother is really tough. He has defeated several of them, but the other party still did not change his words. Chapter 949. Ah! Lei Jingyu roared angrily in the arena. The lightning in his body flickered and exploded. His strength was several levels higher than before. He, who was originally at a disadvantage, suddenly gained the upper hand. He crazily suppressed his opponent, and the arena was filled with lightning. Boom! After his opponent was sent flying by a punch, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fell heavily from the sky. Lei Jingyu roared and continued to charge forward. When he was ready to beat his opponent again, his opponent hurriedly shouted, "I admit defeat. I admit defeat." After admitting defeat, a judge immediately stood up and signaled for them to stop fighting. "You lost. Quickly apologize to my friend." Lei Jingyu panted and glared at his opponent in front of him. He spat out a lot of blood, which splattered on the ground. It seemed that his condition was quite serious. If this continued, he would definitely die in the arena. His opponent could surrender, but he couldn't. Lost? We didn't lose. You still have many of us to defeat. How can you say we lost? Their opponent was a large group of people. Perhaps they didn't know each other, but facing a human, they immediately united and refused to admit defeat. If they wanted to admit defeat, they would have done so long ago. they wouldn't be so shameless as to send people up. To Yi Tianyun, winning the tag battle was a loser. Is that so? Come on then, come on. Lei Jingyu's body swayed, and he almost fell. However, he stood firm and looked at them with a fierce gaze. He would never admit defeat. No matter how many of you come, I will defeat you until you admit defeat. He was panting, but his stubborn heart supported him. This kid is really tough. I didn't expect him to be so good. They didn't admit defeat, but they were still shocked. Lei Jingyu had defeated several of them in a row. Just this result alone was shocking. However, they didn't admit defeat. They wouldn't admit defeat no matter what. Find a stronger opponent and beat him to death. We will definitely win this time. If not for the cultivation limit, I would go down and beat him up. They were very displeased to see Lei Jingyu like this. If not for the fact that the dueling ring did not allow the difference in cultivation, the dueling ring would only allow the difference of 1 or 2 cultivation realms at most. If the difference was too great, not only would it not be worth watching, but it would also result in a crushing defeat. Yi Tianyun, who was watching from below, narrowed his eyes slightly. He turned to his fellow tribesmen and asked, "None of you intend to go up and help?" "Help?" A look of shock appeared in the eyes of this fellow clansman. "We're so much weaker than them. How can we help? And even if we defeat one of them, they'll bring more powerful helpers later on. We'll still lose." The surrounding people all shook their heads. Their thoughts were the same. None of them wanted to stand out. If he stood out, he would be beaten to death. In addition, there were so many people here suppressing him. It would be hard for him to survive in the future. They could only choose to silently endure the humiliation. In this state, it was akin to dragging out an ignoble existence, living for as long as they could. If they forcefully stood out, the only result that awaited them would be getting into trouble. They would be in a troublesome situation, so how could they cultivate in peace? Yes, who doesn't want to stand out? But the other party is so much stronger than us. In the end, we were suppressed to death. There was a situation like this before. A group of people were suppressed by force, but in the end, they were still suppressed, causing them to leave the heavenly mandate divine realm and wander outside. I remember that incident. It was very big. There were a few very powerful people who led a group of people to kill everywhere. When all the human clans thought that they could rise, a super genius from the other side came and defeated everyone. After that, they sank into depression, and their status was getting worse day by day. They all shook their heads. As long as this divine realm was not controlled by the human clans, their status could not be higher than that of other clans. Or it could be said that they had absolute power. Otherwise, they could not support it at all. If someone were to lead you, would you stand up and fight with them? Yi Tianyun looked at them and asked, "Forget it. There's no hope." "Yes, there's no hope. Don't struggle in vain. Little brother, the idea is good, but the reality is cruel." They all chose to shake their heads. Even if someone were to lead them, they did not want to do such a thing. They had failed so many times that they were so desperate that they could not stand up. Yi Tianyun saw despair and pessimism in their eyes. There was no passion to speak of, and there was no motivation at all. How could they improve their status like this? No wonder their status has always been lower than others, and they have always chosen to live. What status can they have? Yi Tianyun shook his head and jumped forward. He immediately landed beside Lei Jingyu and reached out to pat him on the shoulder. Lei Jingyu turned his head and looked over. When he found it was Yi Tianyun, he was delighted. "Brother, thank you for your hard work. Leave it to me." Yi Tianyun took out an elixir and handed it to him. "Take this elixir, and then it's my turn to perform. I'll thank you properly for helping me protect my reputation before." Lei Jingyu took the elixir without hesitation and stuffed it into his mouth. He grinned and said, "It's no big deal. I just can't stand them. No matter what, we must maintain our dignity. We must not lose our dignity." "Who are you? What are you doing here? Are you here to fight?" When the cultivator at the side saw Yi Tianyun going up to help, he frowned and said, "Do you humans think you can fight against us? So what if I am?" Yi Tianyun looked at him and said indifferently, "There is no problem. In that case, You are willing to help him? The other party looked at him and said disdainfully, So what if I am? Yun repeated. Such an indifferent tone immediately made them feel extremely displeased. A cold look flashed across their eyes. All right then, I will let you participate in the battle on my behalf, in case you say that we are bullying him with numbers. The other party said, Aren't you bullying him with numbers? Yin found their words very funny. He glanced at the people present and said coldly, Since that's the case, I will give you a chance to bully him with numbers. Whether it's one or a group, you are very welcome to compete with me. Yin had just come up, but he already said such big words. This caused many people to exclaim in surprise, especially the cultivators who talked to Yin just now. When they saw him go up and say such words, they were all stunned. Was he trying to put on an act and provoke everyone present? The others were immediately infuriated. They all glared at him, their faces alternating between green and red. There is no need to bully him with numbers. I will come down and fight with you in this round. Following that, a young man descended from above. His cultivation was similar to Yun's, a second refinement Earth Monarch. Yun had just come up and released a bit of his aura to let them know what level he was at. The people they sent up naturally couldn't exceed this level of cultivation. Moreover, this level of cultivation wasn't considered low. Yun looked him up and down and said with a faint smile, Know you like to bully him with numbers? Why don't you continue? I very much welcome you to gang up on me. It's not that I like to torture myself. I just want to satisfy your wishes. All of you came to play a tag battle and won't admit it even after losing. What a joke. Is this the so-called arrogance of your race? To me, those who have always bullied the weaker races to show off their superiority are actually characters with low self-esteem. Only by suppressing other races can they obtain a sense of accomplishment. This kind of person is really trash. A true expert wouldn't care about this at all. Instead, all of you are like frogs at the bottom of a well. What a joke. Chapter 950. Yun's words were full of thorns, causing their faces to turn green and pale, making them extremely embarrassed. Many of the others who remained neutral were also extremely disdainful of their behavior. Previously, they had agreed that it would be a normal match, and the loser would apologize. Who knew that they would start a tag team battle, and Lei Jingyu almost couldn't hold on. Winner takes all. What else is there to say? Do we still need to talk about fairness on the battlefield? What an idiot. Win against us first. The cultivator standing opposite Yun glared at him, not the slightest bit self-conscious. Even now, they didn't think that they had done anything wrong. Winner takes all. Then let's talk with our strength. Yun looked at them coldly and said, I'll give you one last chance. Choose to fight as a group, or fight one by one. It's up to you. Bullsh *T. I alone am enough to deal with you. The other party looked at him angrily and shouted, Come on, don't be so long-winded. If you want to fight, then fight. I will make you humans unable to say a word. Just like what happened in the past, all resistance is futile. If you want to stay here, you'll have to obediently stay here and bow down to us. Boom! A figure rushed over and kicked him away. His whole body caved in, but he showed mercy and didn't kill him. Instead, all the bones in his body were broken. Following that, this lump of soft mud fell to the ground, and all the blood in his body splattered in all directions. It was a tragic sight, but he still had one breath left and didn't die. This was done on purpose by Yun. Killing him was too satisfying, and he wanted to teach these pigs a lesson. Even with good medicinal pills to treat him, he wouldn't be able to get off the bed without a few years, or even decades. Next, Yun looked at them coldly and said, No matter how high your cultivation is, you can come down. Even if you're the Lord of Heaven, you can come down and challenge me. Domineering, absolutely domineering. With a single kick, he had turned a second refinement Earth Monarch into a meat patty. Moreover, he had even held back. If it were someone more violent, he would have been kicked to death. But he didn't do so. Instead, he made them remember for the rest of their lives, knowing that there was someone who would forever be their nightmare. Everyone was dumbfounded. With just one move, the opponent was seriously injured. Wasn't this strength too domineering? Too powerful. I didn't expect him to become so powerful in such a short period of time. Lei Jingyu, who had retreated off the stage, was extremely excited. He shouted to the people beside him, "What's wrong with you guys? Aren't you going to cheer for them? Beat those fellows into a sorry state. Let them look down on us humans." Seeing Lei Jingyu's excitement, the others looked at each other with fear in their eyes. Not to mention cheering, they didn't even dare to cheer. They could only shout it out in their hearts and did not dare to shout it out from their mouths. This was because they knew that if they shouted, the other party would definitely come after them. At that time, they would have to bear the consequences. When Lei Jingyu saw that they weren't very excited, he felt very disappointed. It seemed like their hearts were already dead, and they didn't have any hope. To put it bluntly, their servility was too strong, to the extent that they didn't dare to shout out. It was truly a kind of sorrow. "Why? You guys aren't willing to come down and challenge me? Don't you like to take turns fighting? Come down." That passerby just now was defeated by me. Now it's the next person's turn. Tianyun glanced at them, indicating for them to continue. "I'll do it." At this moment, a third refinement Earth Monarch jumped down and glared at him, saying, "This time, I'll take revenge for Brother Fan. You don't even know his name." Boom! Tianyun's figure flashed, and he kicked out fiercely. This third refinement Earth Monarch's outcome was immediately the same as that Brother Fan, turning into a pile of meat paste. He didn't die, but he had to be treated in order to survive. Otherwise, only death awaited him. Next, this passerby is lost. Tianyun looked at the cultivators in front of him indifferently. Originally, they had disdainful expressions, but now, all of them had expressions of horror. When they saw how violent he was, their hearts started to tremble. He had merely defeated two, and they immediately didn't dare to come down. Lei Jingyu wasn't violent enough, and the other party didn't suffer too many losses. Therefore, they dared to continue. Tianyun was much more violent. He settled it with a single kick. How could they not be frightened? "What's wrong? Is no one coming down? All a bunch of cowards. Previously, you said that the winner is the king, and the loser is the thief. Now you are the bandits, a bunch of trash. Just based on trash like you dare to challenge us humans?" Tianyun sneered. He wasn't afraid of them at all. "Me, I'll do it." A fourth refinement Earth Monarch took out a middle-grade reincarnation rank weapon, mustered up his courage, and jumped onto the stage. He was fully prepared to completely crush Tianyun. Just as he finished his preparations, he saw a flash of light. With a boom, he immediately lost consciousness and turned into a pile of meat paste just like the previous two. This passerby is lost. Next, Tianyun shouted very loudly. He had a feeling of rushing into the mountains and rivers, and his roar soared into the clouds. Such a roar caused those disheartened humans to feel excited. It was as though they saw a hope standing in front of them, guiding them to continue forward. Next, "What's wrong with you guys? Didn't you want to continue fighting?" Next, a bunch of trash. Lei Jingyu roared from below, indicating for the other party to continue sending people down instead of standing foolishly at the side. Right. Next. Continue sending people. A bunch of trash. Next. Good job. Beat them into a sorry state." At this time, all of them mustered up their courage and roared out the dissatisfaction in their hearts. The entire area was instantly filled with their roars. They completely released the pressure in their hearts, and their voices resounded throughout the heaven and earth. When Tianyun saw that the situation here was being led by him, he immediately felt gratified. This was the essence of what should be done. Even if the result was a loss, they shouldn't choose to give up. Instead, they should stand firm and continue to charge forward. What a big tone. You think we have no one? At this time, a handsome youth floated over from the side. He held a fan in his hand and looked down at Tianyun from the sky. Lu Baixing is here. The number one genius of the inner hall is here. At this time, they immediately saw hope. They were originally suppressed, but now that Lu Baixing was here, they immediately became excited. This was the #1 genius of the inner hall. His cultivation had reached the 6th refinement of the Earth Monarch rank. He belonged to the standard of the #1 genius of the inner hall. It was rumored that he was ready to join the core hall. This was enough to prove how strong he was. Some people said that he could reach the 8th refinement of the Earth Monarch rank. If he reached the 8th refinement of the Earth Monarch rank and charged towards the Lord of Heaven, then he might become an elder-level mission in the future. This was truly admirable. When he appeared, those people immediately shut up. Their auras sank, and they didn't dare to shout anymore. All of them seemed to have wilted. Chapter 9:51. Lu Baixing's elegant demeanor immediately attracted a round of cheers, filled with hope for his arrival. Those who were previously listless were now extremely excited. Finally, there was an expert who stood up for them. "Senior Brother Lu, defeat this brat and teach him a lesson." "Yes, he's too arrogant. He thinks this is the human race's world. Beat him, beat him, beat him to death." All of them cheered. They were no longer as listless and silent as before. In contrast, the atmosphere on Lei Jingyu's side quickly cooled. All of them kept quiet out of fear, not daring to utter a single word. It was a world of difference from before. "What's wrong with you guys? Isn't he just an inner hall genius? Do you think we'll lose?" Lei Jingyu was very dissatisfied with the surrounding people's performance. They had been a little excited before, but now all of them were listless. Wasn't this showing that the other party's prestige was too great? "This is Lu Baixing, the #1 in the inner hall. Not to mention the human race. Even those powerful races will be trampled underfoot. If we continue to make noise, we'll definitely be targeted." "That's right, this is Lu Baixing. We can't win. We'll lose. Not only will we lose, we'll also be humiliated." All of them shook their heads, completely not daring to continue shouting. All of them shrank back like turtles. "How can you be like this? Are you sure you'll lose? No matter what, you have to try, right?" Lei Jingyu looked at them and said angrily, "I believe you are all experts in Fanyu. Why are you all acting like turtles here? Is it because of this that you don't dare to resist? Where's your pride from before? Where's your fighting spirit from before?" Under Lei Jingyu's stern voice, a light emerged in the depths of their eyes. Lei Jingyu's words made them recall the situation back then. They were all top existences in Fanyu, climbing up step by step from the bottom to reach the divine realm with great difficulty. In the end, they discovered that they were just ants far inferior to others, and were easily abused. After being oppressed for so long, they had completely lost their previous fighting spirit. In the eyes of Fanyu, they could be said to be geniuses among geniuses, but here, they were not even comparable to cabbages. It was really a kind of tragedy. Their eyes were filled with bewilderment. Lei Jingyu's words still didn't inspire their fighting spirit. Everything was suppressed by the other party's aura, and they couldn't summon the slightest will to resist. Tianyan glanced at the situation below and did not say anything. Instead, he looked at Lu Baixing and said indifferently, "The #1 genius of the inner hall. If you want to fight, hurry up and come down. Don't just stand there like an idiot." "How dare you call me an idiot?" Cold light flickered in Lu Baixing's eyes. He had always been high and mighty, and no one dared to disrespect him in the slightest. Now that someone had insulted him, he was instantly infuriated. Humans really are humans. How despicable. They have no manners at all. No wonder you've always been at the bottom. You have only yourselves to blame. Manners are for humans. You're just a beast, Tianyan said indifferently. In my opinion, you just rely on your little bit of ability to trample on those who are weaker than you. That's even more despicable. Especially when you lose, you don't even admit that you lost. You don't even have the most basic integrity. How can you stand in this world? His words immediately angered many people, but they couldn't refute him. When Lei Jingyu fought in the arena, he had indeed said such things, but they hadn't fulfilled their promise. Good. You really have guts. Then let me test you out. Let's see how strong you are." Lu Baixing landed on the arena. Just as he steadied himself, A stream of air swirled around him. It looked ordinary, but in fact, he had already sealed off his surroundings. No matter which direction the attack came from, he could quickly react. It could be said that every step was not taken recklessly. Liu Baixing wasn't the kind of person who would easily lose his rationality. Yi Tianyun had easily defeated two people. Even he didn't dare to be careless. Just this move alone made Liu Baixing's supporters behind him cheer. This kid is dead for sure. I believe that under Senior Brother Liu's attack, he won't last more than 10 moves. At most 5 moves, and that kid will be defeated. They were so confident that the title of the #1 genius in the inner hall wasn't just for show. Liu Baixing could be said to have defeated countless strong cultivators in the inner hall before finally sitting in the #1 position. This was not a random title. The eyes of the human clan dimmed, and they all shook their heads. This halo was too dazzling. On the other hand, what halo could this side have? He was just a nobody. Are you ready? Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. I'll let you make 3 moves first. Swish. A cold light pierced through, and Liu Baixing's pupils shrank. He quickly waved the fan in his hand and swept it forward. In an instant, the fan turned into hundreds of fans, forming a thick wall in front of him. It looked indestructible, like an impenetrable fortress. Boom! A violent force came crashing down, and the hundreds of fans were blown up by a punch. In the blink of an eye, they turned into a pile of powder. Liu Baixing's heart sank, and then he saw a fist pass through the shield he released and hit his chest. Boom! He felt his chest sink, and then an intense pain came along with it. It was like a wave that charged up his body, and because the pain was too intense, he fainted in less than half a breath of time and lost all consciousness. Bang! Liu Baixing fell from the sky, and a large part of his chest caved in. The rest of his body was the same. He felt that the power of this punch spread out, causing his whole body to shatter. It was still just a punch, and the #1 genius in the inner hall was defeated. #1 genius in the inner hall? Yi shook his head and said indifferently, just as oh, can't even withstand a blow. He was so arrogant. The other party wanted to step on him, so he would step on them ruthlessly and let them feel this feeling. The whole place was in complete silence. Everyone stared at Liu Baixing, who was lying on the ground, and doubted if their eyes were playing tricks on them. The #1 genius in the inner hall was defeated in a single punch when he was prepared. To have such a standard, could it be that the other party had already reached the level of the Lord of Heaven? But that wasn't right. When he first came up, he felt that the other party had the cultivation of a 3rd refinement Earth Monarch. Now, he could defeat the other party with a single punch, and he was 3 levels above him. It was truly unbelievable. Too powerful. The #1 genius in the inner hall was defeated. Lei Jingyu looked at them excitedly and said, "Look, what are you afraid of?" Not to mention the #1 genius in the inner hall. Even the #1 genius in the core hall would be defeated. Chapter 952. Yi Tianyun's victory immediately gave them hope. It's not that they want to rely on Yi Tianyun, but it let them see the hope of resistance, proving that humans also have potential and not always be suppressed by bloodline. Really, the first genius of the inner hall was easily defeated. It seems that our human race still has potential. We can still beat them down. Yes, if we admit defeat, then we will lose everything. What are you afraid of? Even if we lose, we can do it again. We can unite together. I don't believe that we can't beat them. One by one, their confidence came back, and their fighting spirit rose crazily, sweeping away the confusion in their hearts. They just have no confidence in themselves, thinking that they will never surpass others. That's why they have been depressed. It's like no matter how hard they try, they can't catch up with others, and in the end, they will only completely lose their fighting spirit. They found this feeling from Yi Tianyun, and it made them excited. Humans also have unlimited potential. When Yi Tianyun noticed the situation here, he couldn't help but smile. This is the fighting spirit they should have. Ding successfully restored the fighting spirit of more than 100 people, gaining 10 billion EXP, 1 million crazy point, 1,000,000 mastery points, 500 karma. There's also a small task, interesting. Etianyan smiled. It's quite interesting, he just doesn't want to let the human race decline. It's not a good thing for him. Everyone is so depressed. In the future, if people from the three realms come, won't they also be affected? Change starts from now. He can't stay stagnant. One side is cheering, the other side is depressed. What's wrong with you? Don't you want to continue to duel with me? Just come down. Etianyan glanced at the opposite side of the crowd, motioning them to continue to duel with him. They looked at each other and saw a bit of fear in each other's eyes. They won't die, but they will definitely be crippled. They don't want to lie in bed for decades. Even if they recover, they will fall behind their peers by a lot. A few decades is not a long time, but it is difficult to catch up in the divine realm. It takes a lot of effort. Junior brother Liu? At this time, a white figure floated down to Liu Baixing's side, picked him up, and quickly fed him an elixir. Then, he turned to look at Etianyan and said angrily, "Did you hurt Junior brother Liu?" Etianyan looked over and discovered that the person who came down was actually a stunning beauty. Her eyes were red, and it was obvious that she was in love with Liu Baixing. Now that Liu Baixing had been beaten into a pig's head, how could he not be angry? Yes, it's Feng Suichio from the Core Palace. She seems to like Liu Baixing. That's right. He seems to have just returned from training recently, and it seems like his cultivation is about to break through to the 7th refinement earthly monarch realm. He's one of the best in the core hall. His overall strength is much stronger than Liu Baixing's. Looks like I have a chance to defeat that kid. So it's senior sister Feng Suichio. This is incredible. Haha, this kid is dead for sure. He injured Liu Baixing, so big sister Feng Suichio will definitely cripple him. This isn't the main point. The main point is that she's a disciple that Elder Nian thinks highly of. I heard that she has a high chance of being taken in as a personal disciple. Each and every one of them looked over at this side with schadenfreude, feeling that Etianyan was definitely dead for sure this time. Although their cultivation was all at the 6th refinement earthly monarch realm, this was the level of the core hall. His overall strength definitely wouldn't be weak, and he was a lot stronger than Liu Baixing, especially when there was still a great reputation behind him. That was the disciple that Nian Xiyu thought highly of. A disciple that the future successor thought highly of, who dared to injure recklessly. If he was injured, wouldn't Nian Xiyu fight it out with him? The faces of Lei Jingyu and the others changed. How could they not know a woman with such background? Especially the person that Nian Xiyu thought highly of. That was even more shocking. With such a strong background, even if Etianyan was stronger than the other party, did he really dare to injure her? Etianyan looked at this woman with a strong background and said indifferently, "I injured him. What's the problem?" "All right, as long as you admit that you injured him." Feng Suichio put down Liu Baixing and handed him to the people beside her to take care of him. She stood up and looked at him coldly, saying, "Cripple both your legs, and I will spare your life." Quite arrogant? This is a normal arena competition. What qualifications do you have to give such a punishment? Etianyan looked her up and down, especially when he heard that Nian Xiyu was taking care of her. It seemed that she had some background, and that was why she became arrogant. To put it bluntly, if Nian Xiyu and the others didn't think highly of him because of this matter, he would immediately choose to leave this place. With so many god regions, he didn't believe that no one would take him in. Qualifications? Feng Suichio looked him up and down and said with contempt, "You are new, right? You don't even know my identity? A core hall disciple, and also Elder Nian's future personal disciple. I am more than enough. If you want to survive in the god region, you better do this obediently. Otherwise, you will be imprisoned in the depths of the prison and never be able to rise again." Her face was full of arrogance, as if she was doted on by millions, and no one dared to touch her. Everyone nodded their heads and felt that what she said was reasonable. This identity was really hard. Is that so? What does this have to do with me? Etianyan said indifferently. Just because of this, I have to cripple my own legs and feet? I didn't think that there would be such an idiot in the core hall. If it was someone else, this might work, but it is useless against me. You. Feng Suichio's eyes were cold. She took out a white silk and jumped down from the arena. She landed firmly on the ground and glared at him. Very good. Since it is like this, then I will test you and see how strong you are. Just as she finished speaking, Feng Tsuechio flung the white silk in her hand and whipped it towards him. A middle-grade reincarnation-level weapon, it represented that her background was indeed extraordinary. Tianyun didn't even dodge. Facing the white silk that was whipping towards his head, he quickly reached out and grabbed it. With a pung sound, a cold aura spread out from his hand and instantly froze his arm. Feng Tsuechio's attack was not an ordinary attack. It was an attack filled with extreme cold. Therefore, when Feng Tsuechio saw Tianyun grab her white silk, she couldn't help but laugh. What an idiot. You still dare to grab my attack with your bare hands. Your hand is about to be crippled. Everyone else thought the same way. Why did you have to pretend to be a big shot? You will directly be frozen and crippled. Just this little bit of ice. I still don't care. Tianyun fiercely pulled the white silk towards him. The powerful force dragged Feng Tsuechio over, causing her to cry out in fear. In the blink of an eye, she was dragged in front of him. Feng Tsuechio was so scared that her beautiful face turned pale. Without waiting for her to react, Tianyun slapped her. Pa! Feng Tsuechio was heavily slapped. Her entire body was sent flying, and her face was slapped high. Chapter 953. Feng Tsuechio was sent flying by the slap. Her beautiful face was swollen, and a few of her teeth were knocked out. It was a horrible sight to behold. She was no longer a goddess. Her face was now swollen like a pig's head. He didn't hold back at all. He was merciful. Tianyun didn't hit her too hard for Ciu's sake. Otherwise, she wouldn't be a core disciple. She would still be crippled like Liu Baixing. The crowd was dumbfounded. What was the use of being a core disciple and Ciu's identity? Tianyun still hit her, which made Lei Jingyu clap his hands. She had nothing to do with him anyway. Brother E, you did a good job, but you were a bit too courageous. Lei Jingyu couldn't help but give a thumbs up to Tianyun. He thought it was amazing. He really didn't hesitate at all when he said he would fight. The other humans all gasped. Did he really not plan to stay in the heavenly mandate divine realm? She was Ciu's future disciple. Hitting her disciple was equivalent to slapping Ciu's face. How dare you hit me? Feng Tsuechio screamed like a cat whose tail was stepped on. She jumped up from the ground and covered her face. She glared at Tianyun and shouted, "Do you know who I am? You ignorant human, stupid human, the lowest human in the divine realm. You are only fit to be a slave forever." Slap. Tianyun slapped her again, causing her to retreat again and again. Say it again? Tianyun said coldly. You dare to hit me again. I want you dead. You humans are worse than trash. Slap. Tianyun slapped her again and sneered. Go on. You slap? Go on. Tianyun slapped Feng Tsuechio a few times in a row. Feng Tsuechio's face was disfigured. Her face was swollen like a pig's head. It was impossible to tell her original appearance. Apart from the lower half of his body, which looked normal, his face was unrecognizable. Feng Tsuechio was beaten to the point that she couldn't speak. Her head was dizzy from the beating. Other than letting out whimpering sounds, she couldn't make any other sounds. You think I don't dare to hit a woman? Even if it's a woman, I still dare to hit her. Tianyun turned his leg around and kicked Feng Tsuechio. Pong! Feng Tsuechio was kicked out and landed heavily on the ground. In the end, he was no different from Liu Baixing. All the bones in his body were broken, and if he wanted to get out of bed, he would need to recuperate for at least a few years or even decades. Killing them was indeed the most direct and brutal method, and he could even gain a lot of experience, but to him, it was too easy for these idiots. As for whether or not they would take revenge after a few decades, he was not the least bit afraid of these idiots taking revenge on him. At that time, he was afraid that they would not even have the qualifications to look up to him. Senior Sister Feng, a young girl, rushed over and hugged Feng Tsuechio. When she saw her senior sister's appearance, she glared at Tianyun and said, You are dead. How dare you beat Senior Sister Feng like this? She is the seated contestant of the divine realm's ascending battle. You will have to bear the wrath of Elder Nyen. The cultivators on Lei Jingyu's side trembled. They felt that they had really gone too far this time. If Elder Nyen really pursued this matter, wouldn't they all be finished? It's over if Elder Nyen pursues this matter. He will be in trouble. Indeed so. AI, even if his ability is not bad, he will not be able to deal with someone with a strong background. Don't worry, brother, you will be fine. He is so much stronger than the others. I don't believe that these elders are blind. That Feng Suechio's ability is not bad, but she was still defeated by Brother Yi. So on and so forth. Brother Yi's talent is much stronger than theirs. What is there to worry about? Lei Jingyu was a little worried, but he felt that the heavenly mandate realm would not punish Yi Tianyun. If so, it would be a great loss. On the other hand, Feng Suechio was sneering. She felt that Yi Tianyun was waiting for death this time. Even if his ability was not bad, he could only wait to be punished by Elder Nyen. I heard that someone has already reported to Elder Nyen. This kid is definitely finished. Let's see if he can still be arrogant later. He will be thrown in a prison and will never be able to come out. Just thinking about it makes me feel good. We can't let this kid get away with it. Everyone gnashed their teeth at Yi Tianyun. Even if Yi Tianyun was very strong, he could not convince the crowd. This was their nature. They would never admit that the human clan could ride on their heads. Yi Tianyun looked at them coldly and said, "Don't talk nonsense up there. If you are a man, come down and challenge me. Didn't you want to duel with me before? Now, you can come at me. I will take on as many as you want." These words made their faces turn green and white. If they went down, they would definitely lose. How could they continue to play? Whether it was the number one genius of the inner hall, the genius of the core hall, or the existence with a backer, they would all be crushed. This made them feel very tragic. They did not know what to do. Should they go down, or should they really stay up there and be cowards? They did not want to be cowards, but if they went down, they would definitely lose. The result did not seem to be good. What? Are you all not willing to come down? Since you have been waiting for so long, choose to admit defeat and apologize to my friend. Yi Tianyun pointed at Lei Jingyu and said coldly, "You have already made a promise before. Now you can fulfill it." They looked at Lei Jingyu and did not know what to say. Did they really have to lower their heads to the human clan? But if they did not lower their heads, the young man in front of them would definitely scold them to death. At that time, it would be even more embarrassing. When they were in despair, a familiar figure appeared beside them. It was Nyen Ciu who was flying over. There were also a few female disciples beside her. Clearly, they deliberately went over to bring people over. When they saw Nyen Ciu, they immediately revealed pleasantly surprised gazes. When they looked at Yi Tianyun, their gazes were filled with ridicule. More of them were gloating over his misfortune. Injuring Feng Suechio, let's see how this ends. Elder Nyen, he was the one who injured senior apprentice Sister Feng. Moreover, he was very heavy-handed. Not only was he heavy-handed, he even insulted senior apprentice Sister Feng. The female cultivator beside her added oil and vinegar. Yi Tianyun did not insult Feng Suechio from start to finish. They only saw Feng Suechio continuously insulting Yi Tianyun. "You are talking nonsense." Brother Yi did not insult them. I only heard them insulting Brother Yi all the time. Lei Jingyu stood out without hesitation and firmly stood his ground. That's right. We can all testify that Elder Nyen absolutely did not insult Senior Apprentice Sister Feng. It was entirely Senior Apprentice Sister Feng who insulted him first. None of them shut up. In the end, there were still some people who chose to stand out and defend Yi Tianyun. When Nyen Ciu saw Yi Tianyun, she immediately rolled her eyes at him and said, "I was just about to ask where you went. I looked for you for half a day. I did not expect you to come here and cause trouble." Chapter 954. I heard that someone bullied my friend, so I came to see what was going on. I didn't expect that someone would insult me, so my friend stood up for me. Yi Tianyun shrugged his shoulders and glanced at the group of people on the side. "You even said that I entered the core hall through the back door, and that I might not be human. Isn't that an insult to me?" As soon as Tianyun said this, everyone present was dumbfounded. Why did these words sound so familiar? You are the human who created the record? They were all dumbfounded. The existence that they had suspected for a long time was right in front of them, and he easily killed their people. This proved that he was really someone with real strength. What's going on? He is the genius that appeared in our human clan? Tianyun? The cultivator next to Lei Jingyu looked at Tianyun, and then looked at Lei Jingyu. His eyes were full of shock. Yeah, didn't you hear me call him Brother E? His real name is Tianyun. Lei Jingyu rolled his eyes at him. He had called him Brother E so many times. Did these people not know? They opened their mouths wide. How could they think that it was Tianyun? There were so many people with the surname E. They couldn't be sure that it was Tianyun just because he called him Brother E, right? They didn't expect that he was really a legendary existence. He had broken several records. Just based on this, he was a super popular person. His status was definitely much higher than Feng Tsuechio's. The two could be said to be at a different level. The people on the other side were also dumbfounded. They felt like they had eaten a fly. This was no longer an iron plate, but a mountain. The key was to see what Nian Xiyu would say. Everything depended on her judgment. Nian Xiyu's expression quickly became cold. She turned her head and looked at them. She said coldly, "Is there such a thing?" She was very unhappy now. Tianyun was the hope of the heavenly mandate divine realm. If something happened, who could bear the responsibility? She didn't even need to investigate to know what the problem was. In the end, it was still a problem of racial discrimination. This kind of matter was indeed a headache. She did not expect that it would fall on Tianyun. This was not something she wished to see. If Tianyun had a bad feeling and did not work hard for the heavenly mandate divine realm, it would be a great loss for them. Yes, there is such a thing. They all lowered their heads, their hearts chilled, especially the lady who had planned to watch Tianyun get punished. She was dumbstruck, and her heart sank to the bottom. She had thought that Nian Xiyu would stand by her side, but now it seemed that she was gravely mistaken. She was completely standing by Tianyun's side. If she was standing beside them, Nian Xiyu wouldn't have asked such a question. Instead, she would have directly punished Tianyun severely. Good, very good. After Nian Xiyu shouted twice, she looked at them coldly and said, "This is the arena. If you bet, you must be willing to lose. You are still not willing to admit it. If this gets out, how can we, the heavenly mandate divine realm, have any face left? Do you want others to laugh at us, the heavenly mandate divine realm, saying that we are all untrustworthy, especially to our own clan?" No, it's not like that. Their voices were very low, not as arrogant as before. Each of them was like a child who had done something wrong. They lowered their heads and did not dare to refute. Whether it is like that or not, now that you have done it, I will give you a choice, and that is to correct your own mistakes. Apologize to Tianyun obediently. He not only created a record, but his strength is also stronger than yours. Instead of cultivating properly, all of you are here grinning mischievously. What a scandal. Nian Xiyu motioned for them to apologize quickly. No matter what, Tianyun was in the right, so they naturally let them apologize. They felt very uncomfortable, but since Nian Xiyu had said so, they could only say to Tianyun, "I am sorry, it is all our fault. We spoke nonsense and caused you trouble. We are very sorry." They chose to apologize one by one, but it was really embarrassing. It was like being pressed on the floor to apologize, and it was more uncomfortable than eating a fly. Tianyun glanced at them and nodded gently. He did not bother to pay attention to them. He knew that it was impossible to change their minds immediately. Everything could only be done slowly. If he wanted to change their minds, the most important thing was for the human clan to become stronger, so that such a situation would not occur. It was impossible for him to change it by himself. He needed to change it little by little. Therefore, he did not care about their attitude, and he could only take it slowly. After apologizing, Nian Xiyu looked at him helplessly and said, "Can we go now? I am ready here. It is time to go with me." "Almost. Elder Nian, wait for me for a moment." Tianyun smiled and immediately came to Lei Jingyu's side and said, "Brother Lei, thank you for your help before. It is just that you were a little stubborn. He also gave a thumbs up to Lei Jingyu. Even though he was not strong, his pride was very strong, and he was very friendly to friends. He could feel that Lei Jingyu really treated him as a good friend. Don't say that, it is embarrassing. Lei Jingyu scratched his head and smiled. Actually, I feel that Brother Yi is very powerful, and you are my first friend here. If others speak ill of you, I will definitely not forgive them. Moreover, they insulted the human clan, which is even more unforgivable. Yi Tianyin patted his shoulder and took out a mid-grade reincarnation grade weapon. Under everyone's shocked gaze, he handed it to Lei Jingyu and said, "This is a gift for you. It should be of great help to you." Mid-grade reincarnation grade weapon. Lei Jingyu was shocked and immediately pushed the weapon back. "No, this weapon is too precious. I cannot accept it. You should keep it for yourself. That way, you will be able to use it to its greatest effect." Yi Tianyin shook his head and smiled. "Take it. If you don't take it, it means that you do not treat me as a friend." This. Lei Jingyu looked at Yi Tianyin's determined gaze and had no choice but to accept the weapon. "All right, then, I will accept this weapon. Thinking about it, I really made a big profit this time." The others were very envious, but this was what he deserved. If it were them, would they dare to stand up for him? This was equivalent to risking their lives. It was not that easy to earn. Then, Brother Lei, cultivate well. I look forward to your performance in the future. Yi Tianyin patted his shoulder and turned to leave with Nian Tsiyu. Lei Jingyu looked at his back as he left and clenched his fist. "I should work harder. Otherwise, it will be difficult to protect my hometown." His gaze was filled with determination. He had never been at a loss. It must be said that his Dao heart was very shocking. Ding successfully subdued Lei Jingyu as a god general. Obtained 50 billion experience points, 5 million proficiency points. Chapter 955. The problem of the race has always existed. I thought about it before, but I didn't expect it to appear on you so quickly. Nianxiu didn't console him, and instead said cruelly, "This is a common problem in the divine realm. It is hard to change in a short time. Currently, we can at most change ourselves. It is too difficult to help people of the same race change." When she said that she wanted to change herself, she was mainly talking about changing the way others saw her. This was quite easy. Yi Tianyin was very strong, and if he could get into the top 10 in the divine realm ascending battle, or even the top 50, he would be recognized immediately. The people on this side immediately became very respectful to him. There was absolutely no discrimination in this, but absolute worship. However, this was only for Yi Tianyin. As for the other humans, they couldn't be bothered to care. This was like how the Phoenix race treated him well. They were hostile to the other humans, but he was an exception. After all, he helped the Phoenix race before, which was why he received such treatment. Hence, it was the same here. After receiving glory, he was the only one who was different. The others would still be discriminated against. Yi Tianyin nodded and said calmly, "I understand. It is indeed more difficult. I don't expect to change anything now. I don't intend to purposely change everything." When he saw those people, they just gave him a little help and made him their leader or something, and then he led them. He didn't think about this for now. After all, this required too much time and was very difficult. He couldn't even deal with his own matters now, let alone such a thing. Nian Tsiyu looked at him and thought for a while before saying, "Actually, our sky feather race has always been like this. We walk step by step until we obtain this divine realm. Races without divine realms have always been looked down upon." She pointed out the most crucial point, which was the territory. Without the family's territory, coming here was equivalent to being an outsider. The other races could be so arrogant mainly because they had status here. Their bloodlines were even stronger. How divine realms? Yi Tianyin shook his head. With his current situation, he couldn't complete such a difficult task for the time being, just like in the three realms. It wasn't even a grade 1 faction, yet it wanted to become a deity nation faction. One could easily imagine how difficult it was. Nian Xiyu heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that he was no longer thinking about it. What she was most worried about was that Tianyin would wave his hand and say that he would take over the divine domain or rule over the human race. It was as if his head had been kicked by a donkey. He would be slapped to death in minutes. After all, this idea was very dangerous. There were so many people who did not like the human race, so they naturally did not want the human race to rise. Tianyin's cultivation wasn't bad, but to them, he was just an ant that could be squashed to death with a flip of their hand. If he wanted to change it, then the cultivation base of the Lord of Heaven was nothing but a fart. It was completely useless. The Heavenly Feather Clan was able to occupy the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm, not only because they were strong, but also because they had been here for generations and had occupied the place for a long time. Under Nian Xiao's lead, they boarded the spirit ship and flew towards an unknown place. Tianyin couldn't be bothered to care about where Nian Xiao was going. Anyway, as he had said before, he would be taken to the core area. As for where the core area was, he was not too sure, especially since they were going there through the spirit ship and not through the teleportation formation. It was enough to prove that the place should be relatively hidden. Aren't you curious about the core area that I'm taking you to? What kind of place is it? Nian Xiao saw that Tianyin was calm and could not help but ask. No matter where it is, we will find out when we get there. Anyway, I believe that Elder Nian will not trick me, right? Tianyin smiled and said, "That is true." Nian Xiao was suddenly speechless. She just thought that Tianyin would be a little curious. She did not expect him to be so calm. Then, Nian Xiao stopped talking and continued to fly forward with him. Not long after, Nian Xiao said again, "We are ready." At this time, Tianyin opened his eyes and looked forward. It was still a huge planet outside. However, from the outside, all he could see was a hall and nothing else. "Let's go out." Nian Xiao took him outside. Not long after they flew out, there were immediately guards intercepting them. These guards were all triple refined Earth Lords. Their cultivation was quite good. "Oh, it is Elder Nian." The guards recognized Nian Xiao. If they did not even know who Nian Xiao was, then they have been guarding here for so many years in vain. "Yes, I am bringing someone in. I have already reported it," Nian Xiao said. The two of them looked up and down at Tianyin, then nodded and said, "You are allowed to pass." Nian Xiao looked at Tianyin's direction and continued to fly down with him. Tianyin looked at the guards behind and said in confusion, "This place is a bit too strict. Elder Nian, you can't even bring anyone in?" "If I could bring anyone in, I would not have gone to the Region Lord for approval," Nian Xiao said in a deep voice. Nian Xiao said in a deep voice, "This could be said to be the best place for training in the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm. If anyone could be brought in, the energy here would have been exhausted long ago." "The best place for cultivation?" Tianyin's eyes lit up. He wanted to see what the best place for cultivation was. When he just landed, he immediately felt a strong vitality coming from under his feet. It made him feel like he was bathing in the spring breeze. He felt that all the pores in his body were opened. This life force was even stronger compared to the longevity equipment. Even ordinary humans would be able to extend their lifespans by staying here. Even if they did not cultivate, they could easily break through to the Spirit King stage. Such a strong vitality. Tianyin looked up and saw a hall in front of him. It was not very big. The real highlight was that there was a huge tree on top of the main hall, wrapping the entire main hall inside. However, he could see that the tree was formed later. It was impossible for the hall to be built before the tree. Of course, this is the place with the strongest vitality. No matter what kind of hidden injuries you have, you can get relief or even be cured here. Nian Xiao said proudly, "It can be said that among the many first-grade divine realms, our longevity temple is definitely ranked in the top 3. He did not know the ranking of the cultivation places, but he could feel that this place was amazing. "Elder Nian, are you asking me to heal my injuries?" Tianyin smiled and said, "I remember you said that you need to improve yourself by fighting, right?" Chapter 956. Nian Xiao's words made Tianyin feel quite interested. It was not a battle, but it was more effective than a battle. I hope so. Etienne's eyes flashed. He relied on battles to gain experience. If the experience gained here was too little, it would not be as fast as fighting and killing enemies. Unless the experience gained here was extremely fast, it was also a good place, especially since the life force here was so rich, which could strengthen his body slightly. Then, under Nian Xiu's lead, they walked into the hall. What came into view was not a luxurious place. It was surrounded by countless trees and vines. From here, they could see a long corridor, which was in the shape of a spiral, continuously winding to the bottom. Looking down casually, they knew that the depth was too shocking. He even wondered if the entire planet was penetrated by this corridor. The deeper they went, the richer the life force was which was released here. Below, they could even see that the life force had become solid. Green starlight floated in the air, which showed how rich the life force was. Is that Captain Gu? Etienne was stunned. He did not expect to see an acquaintance here. Not to mention Captain Gu, even his old rival, Tri Yuan, was here. The area where they stayed was not deep, roughly a few thousand meters deep. They were meditating and cultivating by the side of the corridor. Didn't you say that this is the core area? Why do I see so many people here? Etienne glanced over and found that the lowest level of cultivation here was the Lord of Earth, and the highest was the Lord of Heaven. This was not the point. The point was that there were many cultivators here. Not to mention the number, there were dozens of people cultivating here. He thought there were only a few people here. He did not expect there to be so many, especially some captains here, which made him very confused. Nian Xiu saw his confusion and explained with a smile. The core area is not an absolute core secret. As long as you provide a certain amount of contribution points, you can still come in and cultivate. Hearing Nian Xiu's explanation, he looked carefully and found that it was true. There were so many people here, and some of them were captains. To put it bluntly, they were similar to guards with a higher status. They maintained most of the order in the heavenly mandate divine realm, so they contributed more. It was not wrong to let them in. How many contribution points are needed? Etienne asked. You have to help maintain order here for at least 500 years. At the same time, you have to hand over 20 choice tokens before you can come in and cultivate for a month, Nian Xiu replied. This? Etienne wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. This requirement was really high. Although he had thought about it, this requirement was really not low. 500 years plus 20 election tokens, which meant that the election tokens obtained after 200 years of service were handed over just like that. Furthermore, he could only stay for a month. He had to spend 200 years to exchange for a month's time. There are many ways to obtain the choice token. The biggest foundation is 500 years. Nian Xiu couldn't help but laugh when she saw Etienne being frightened. Indeed, the biggest problem was 500 years. It wasn't long, but it wasn't short either. Of course, the 20 choice tokens were also a difficult problem, and the price they had to pay was not small. However, if the first condition was met, as long as one used something to exchange for an election token, they could also come here to cultivate. It was just that the price was really high. No wonder it was called the core area and still needed to be approved. Then what about us disciples? How can we come in? Etienne asked. This also depends on one's contribution to the mission or one's talent. Some of them can be made an exception to let you in to cultivate. For example, you are one of them. Our original plan was to wait for the next Divine Realm Ascension battle before you participate. Or you can participate in the battle in advance, but that is on the premise of gaining some experience. Nian Xiu explained. However, you are very outstanding and your breakthrough speed is shocking. We plan to let you be one of the main forces in this Divine Realm Ascension battle. That is why we made an exception to let you in. Otherwise, you really wouldn't be able to come in. Then how long can I stay here? Etienne asked. As you are a little special, the requirements are stricter. You will run down from here. The lower you go, the heavier the pressure. Even the Lord of Heaven can cultivate here. Nian Xiu explained. Your starting point is 1 month. The lower you go, the more 1 month you can have, so on and so forth. In this Life God Temple, there is a total of 100,000 meters. This means that if you can run to the bottom, you can get 20 months. Of course, if you can really surpass 80,000 meters, you can get an additional year. If you can run to 100,000 meters, then you can stay until the Divine Realm Ascension battle. Before 80,000 meters, this 5,000 meters is the standard. How far you can run will depend on your ability. After hearing this rule, he really didn't get resources for free. As expected, he needed to fight for it with his own strength. This is easy. 100,000 meters is the deepest. Etienne lowered his head and looked down. It was really deep. If he flew normally, 100,000 meters would be gone in the blink of an eye. The difficulty of going down was definitely not small. Otherwise, it wouldn't have such a high difficulty. Let me explain here. There are a few of the strongest geniuses in the core hall who are already cultivating at the bottom. They are really arrogant. If you can knock them down a peg, we will be very happy to see this. Nian looked at him with a smile. If I help knock them down, will I get any benefits? Etienne smiled. Not really. Can I help them along the way? Nian smiled. Unless you are not willing to go down, I believe that with your strength, it won't be a problem for you to surpass them. Nian knew his ability. He was able to suppress an early-stage Lord of Heaven. Dealing with these core hall disciples was a piece of cake. All of them were extremely arrogant. If someone could knock them down and wake them up, letting them know that there was always someone better, it was a good choice. This will depend on the cultivation area. Does it satisfy my needs? If it doesn't, then I won't continue. Etienne shrugged. If the experience gained wasn't objective, then there was no point in staying here. If this place can't satisfy you, then there really isn't any place in the first-grade God domain that can satisfy you. Nian smiled. Fighting isn't the standard to temper yourself. This can also satisfy you, especially since your breakthrough speed is too fast. This place can stabilize your cultivation. Chapter 957. After listening to the instructions, Nian left and told him to stay here and cultivate. Nian still had a lot of things to do. The Divine Domain Ascension battle was about to begin, and there was a lot of preparation work for the elders. Let's go down and see how it works. Etienne glanced down the stairs and immediately turned to run down the stairs. Just as he walked down, he immediately felt a rich life force transmitting from his feet. Obtain 5,000 experience points, 6,000 experience points, 7,000 experience points. As he walked down, he gained more and more experience. He didn't even need to absorb it deliberately, and the experience kept rising. What surprised him the most was that the planet in his body also began to absorb the life force, making the trees on it more vigorous and nourishing the entire world. There's such an effect? Etienne's eyes flickered. When he solidified this planet, he didn't know what it was. After understanding it, he discovered that it was a change in the power in his body. To have the power of a planet, one had to keep condensing it. Very few people could condense it at the Star Lord level. Most people could only condense it at the 5th or 6th refinement of the Earth Lord level. This was considered relatively fast. Some even broke through to the Lord of Heaven to be able to condense it. One could imagine how difficult it was. Etienne could condense it at the very beginning. Now, the power of the planet had formed and was expanding rapidly. In fact, that power was astral power. With this planet circulating in his body, it would continuously produce star power and store star power. With continuous cultivation, the planet would become bigger and bigger. In the end, living creatures could even live on it. It could be said that this was a very important thing. Without this planet, one would fall behind by a lot in the future and would basically be like a cultivator who couldn't even get started. Now, when Etienne went down, he discovered that his planet was being nourished. This meant that if this continued, his planet would continue to expand and become stronger. When he first came to the Divine Domain, he condensed a planet to have stronger power. This meant that if this continued, his power would continue to expand again. Grade 1 planet. Etienne watched the planet in his body strengthen bit by bit. With continuous nourishment, it was very likely to break through to a Grade 2 planet. The power of the planets in one's body was also divided into grades. The higher the grade, the stronger it would be. This was similar to the strength of meridians. The stronger the planet, the stronger the meridians. Looks like this is indeed a good place. Not only can I obtain experience, but I can also expand the planet in my body. I wonder if they think that I have obtained the power of a planet? Etienne's eyes flickered, and he immediately smiled, speeding down. 20,000 experience points, 30,000 experience points, 40,000 experience points. As he sprinted, his experience bar shot up rapidly. It was quite impressive. In the blink of an eye, he had reached a height of more than 1,000 meters. Here, the pressure rapidly multiplied. There was a kind of gravitational force pressing down from above. It was at least 1 billion kilograms. They had only been running for 1,000 meters, but there was already such a terrifying gravitational force. It was really shocking. No wonder Gu Yanlong and the others could only stay at around 16,000 meters. That was probably their limit. If they continued to run, not to mention walking, it would be good if they could even meditate there. His addition was not eye-catching. Everyone was focused on meditating and cultivating. Time was very precious here, and they could not afford to waste a single second. Therefore, they tried their best to absorb the life force here to nourish the power in their bodies. Not only was the life force here rich, but the spiritual power here was even richer. It could be said to have reached an astonishing level. No wonder it was said to be the best place to cultivate. Those words were not made up. As he sprinted down, his speed did not decrease at all. Soon, he reached Gu Yanlong's side. Gu Yanlong felt someone approaching and opened his eyes subconsciously. "It's you?" When Gu Yanlong saw Etienne, he was instantly stunned. "Captain Gu, long time no see." Etienne smiled. Actually, it had not been many days since they last met. In other words, it was less than a few months. Indeed, it has been a while. Gu Yanlong hurriedly stood up and looked him up and down. He said in surprise, "I thought that you might make an exception to enter. Now, you really made an exception, as expected of a genius. Yurong has already told me about you. You are amazing in all aspects. Your talent is really amazing. But this is more than 10,000 meters. You came down so easily?" Gu Yanlong was very surprised and felt that it was inconceivable. He obviously did not know about Etienne's situation, nor did he know about the situation on the arena. Even a 3rd or 4th tier Earth monarch was easily defeated. If he knew, he would not have asked such a question. "It's all right," Etienne said modestly. "Isn't this the human from before?" Beside him, Shu Yuan also stood up in surprise. When he saw Etienne, he was dumbfounded. Then, his eyes were filled with jealousy. When he saw Etienne coming over, it meant that an exception was made to enter. Only those with amazing talent could enter early without a lot of contribution points. These people were called seeded contestants. Disciples who could participate in the ascending battle of the deity realm would not have that much time to slowly accumulate contribution points. Therefore, an exception was made to allow them into this area. That's right. This is the human that you looked down on before. Now he has entered the God Temple of Life. Gu Yanlong sneered at Shu Yuan. It was an obvious slap in the face. Shu Yuan did not refute. He was already here. What else could he say? No matter what he said, it would only be a slap in the face. He had spent 500 years to enter this area, but Etienne had entered so easily. If he still sneered at him, he would only be humiliating himself. Gu Yanlong smiled and looked at Etienne and said, "Then let's cultivate. Time is really precious here. I can only exchange for 2 months of time." Gu Yanlong said, "Okay, then you cultivate well. Make every second count. I don't have much time either." After greeting Shu Yuan, Etienne continued to rush forward under Shu Yuan's surprised gaze. "What's going on? This brat can still go down?" Shu Yuan and the others were shocked. Staying here was already their limit. It should be said that it was not their limit, but if they wanted to cultivate, they could only stay here. It was like being suppressed by an unbearable force all the time. It was impossible to cultivate well. In the blink of an eye, Etienne had already rushed up 20,000 meters in one go. He had left the 2 of them far behind, which shocked them to their core. The last time they saw Etienne, he was only a Star Lord. Chapter 958. Is this kid trying to show off? It won't do him any good to go down and cultivate by force. Looking at Etienne's figure, Shu Yuan felt disdain and shook his head. Young people will always be young people. We can also go down by force, but what's the point if we can't cultivate? I can feel that his cultivation has broken through. He should be a second refinement Earth Lord, Gu Yanlong said, shaking his head. When Etienne left, he left a strand of aura so that Shu Yuan could roughly feel his cultivation. The energy fluctuation couldn't be faked. He could still feel it clearly. Second refinement Earth Lord. Shu Yuan almost bit his tongue. Last time he was a Star Lord, but now he was a second refinement Earth Lord. How did he cultivate? The jealousy in his eyes intensified, but he still said mercilessly, "So what if he's a second refinement Earth Lord? I'm a third refinement Earth Lord. I'm sure that he'll turn back in a moment and obediently cultivate nearby." He didn't want to admit defeat, so he was sure that Etienne couldn't have gone far. "Oh, looks like you're still stubborn. You won't admit defeat. Do you want to bet with me again?" Gu Yanlong sneered. This? Shu Yuan was stunned. He remembered that he lost the previous bet. If he lost again, wouldn't he lose his underwear? What this? I'm asking you if you want to bet or not. Let's not bet on anything else. We'll bet on 20 election tokens, which is a month's time. Gu Yanlong looked at him and said, "Damn it, let's bet." "I don't believe it." Shu Yuan was furious. He didn't believe that Etienne could create another miracle. But how should we bet? At least set a standard. How about I lose if I go back and cultivate nearby? I win if I can stay above 20,000 meters. How about that? Gu Yanlong said with a smile. Deal. Shu Yuan made the decision immediately. He looked at Gu Jun and smiled. Captain Gu, you're going to lose this time. How can you stay above 20,000 meters without an Earth Monarch at the 4th level? Indeed, without a 4th Refinement Earth Lord, one can't stay above 20,000 meters, but that depends on the person. Gu Yanlong smiled. I believe he can stay longer this time. What a joke. His cultivation base must be unstable for him to advance so quickly. It's fine if your foundation is stable, but if you break through so quickly, you definitely won't be able to stabilize your foundation. Tri Yuan continued to refute. I'm not going to say anything more to you. Want you know later? Gu Yanlong couldn't be bothered with him. After all, no matter what he said, the other party would refute him, so he couldn't be bothered with him. All right, let's wait and see. Shu Yuan humphed coldly and sat down to cultivate while observing the situation below. If he had scouted for information from the outside, he would never have made such a bet. It was simply a free gift. Kid, you must create a miracle. Gu Yanlong smiled and said, Whether or not I can continue to stay here for another month depends on you. He did not know why, but he felt that Etienne could continue to create miracles. Of course, Etienne didn't know what they were betting on. He just kept rushing downwards and soon reached 25,000 meters. After a while, he reached 30,000 meters again. His speed was like a gust of wind as he rushed downwards. Up above, Tri Yuan was dumbfounded. It had only been a few minutes since the bet was made, and the result was already out. Captain Tri, you lost? Gu Yanlong smiled and said, If you can reach 30,000 meters so easily, I believe that even if you can't withstand it later on, you can at least reach 20,000 meters, right? With their abilities, they couldn't even reach 25,000 meters, let alone 30,000 meters. Those who could reach 30,000 meters would definitely be able to stay above 20,000 meters for a long time. Aye. Tri Yuan was about to cry. He had worked so hard to collect dozens of tokens, and now he had to give away 20 of them. It was a huge loss. What about me? Hurry up. Gu Yanlong walked over and patted his shoulder. I'll give it to you. Tri Yuan clenched his teeth and handed over the token. Seeing the token being taken away, Tri Yuan could feel his heart bleeding. It was such a loss. The result was decided in just a few minutes. He thought it would take a long time. This kid is really my lucky star. Gu Yanlong smiled and said to Tri Yuan, But you are my god of fortune. You can stay here for another month. Humans can't be that powerful. He must have some kind of ability. Tri Yuan could only comfort himself like that. Tianyun had no idea that the bet was settled so quickly. He continued to run downwards. He felt that the life force was getting denser and denser. More and more life force was flowing into his body. His experience points increased from 1,000 to 1,000,000. Basically, he gained 1,000,000 experience points in just a few seconds. The speed of gaining experience points was quite shocking. Most importantly, the planet's nourishing speed was even faster. The trees that were originally small saplings grew to a few meters tall in an instant. Soon, when he reached 50,000 meters, a young man passing by opened his eyes and was surprised to see a stranger passing by. Who is that? The person surpassed him so easily, and he looked even younger. He frowned and wondered who this guy was. Not only did Tianyun surpass him, but he also passed by many cultivators. Some were Lord of Heaven, and some were outstanding disciples of the core hall. All of them were easily surpassed by him, which immediately attracted their attention. Especially since he was a new face, they had never seen him before. A new face could reach more than 50,000 meters from the very beginning. His ability was quite shocking. Who is that kid? Is he a new disciple of the core hall? It can't be. He just joined, and he can rush so deep? That's not possible, right? He looks so young, and his cultivation doesn't seem high. Let me feel his aura. He seems to be a third refinement Earth Lord. There were elders and deacons meditating below. Their cultivation levels were not low. There was no lack of 5th or 6th refinement Earth Lords, and no lack of Lord of Heaven. Of course, this Lord of Heaven was probably around the 5th or 6th refinement Earth Lord. He was not very strong. However, they were all easily surpassed by Tianyun in the area they were in. All of them were dumbfounded. They didn't know who this newcomer was. When Tianyun surpassed a young girl, she suddenly opened her eyes. A golden light shot out from her beautiful eyes. It was as though it was material and almost penetrated the ground in front of her. Who is he? When the young girl saw Tianyun's back view, she stood up from her meditation and looked at him with a burning gaze. Interesting. There are really not many people who can surpass me when we are around the same age. She didn't think much and actually chased after him. It seemed like she wanted to have a contest with Tianyun. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.